Yo, what is up, everybody? Xbox 2 Podcast is now live. I'm one of your hosts, Rand Thor 19, the man with the million. And with me is Towerborn expert, Jez freaking Corden of Windows Central. Jez, it's another week. Almost, what is this? Episode 359? And, I don't know, man. How you doing?
Jez freaking Corden. Is that like Seth
Yeah,
freaking Rollins?
It's like Seth freaking Rollins. You're
Right.
Jez freaking Corden now. So now
Jez
you have to
freaking
come
Corden.
out kind of doing like the Grinch walk and the off the cuff laughter, just kind of being completely like total chaos.
Yeah, that's me. I'm a whirlwind of pure chaos, baby. Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm rocking and rolling with my good buddy Rand Thor 19, the man with the million, chilling with the Xbox 2 universe over there in the XB2 universe sphere. I'm feeling relaxed. I'm feeling relaxed.
Yeah, you doing good?
So yeah, it's Friday night. Got my delicious can of sugar-free Fanta. Hanging out with Rand, talking some Xbox. Yeah, I'm good. I'm doing good. How are you guys? How's everyone in the chat?
Yeah,
How are
how's
you all
everybody
rocking
doing?
up?
Because it doesn't feel like actually because we did a show on Tuesday, right? So the exclusive Patreon show for the Xbox 2 Ultimate stuff. We did that on Tuesday. So I was kind of thinking to myself, I'm like, man, didn't we do a show recently? It definitely seems a short turnaround, but I was like, oh yeah, well that was for the wonderful Patreon members. But as Dova
Time is
says
just
in
an
chat,
abstract concept now,
he
Rand.
says he's feeling filmic, or he's doing filmic. Which is usually how you're doing.
That is true. That is usually on.
But we did get
Yeah, I am feeling filmic.
Actually. Last week was kind of a Nintendo based podcast, if you will, which is I know like nobody tunes in to listen to us talk about Nintendo, and there were some wider conversations about like game prices and tariffs and all that sort of stuff. So maybe we'll mention some of the stuff that's still going on, but Xbox came out and they basically announced the dates for the Xbox showcase and all that stuff surrounding it. So they're kind of getting the hype in a little bit earlier than normal, because I was sort of surprised when well, actually, I wasn't surprised. I mean, I knew they were announcing it, but I was surprised they were announcing it a couple months out when normally it's usually like a month. But I mean, everybody knew the date. It was like, oh yeah, they do it around the Summer Games Fest, and Summer Games Fest is like the 6th. So it's not like it's a surprise that it fell on the day it was going to fall on, right? So
maybe they thought it was gonna leak.
Yeah, I suppose that's always. Maybe they thought you were going to leak it.
Well, I think we did talk about an XB2 plus one that it was going to be the 8th.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you said, it's kind of obvious. But they always do it at this time of the year. But I suppose what's a little different this year is that there's no in-person event. It's going to be entirely digital. There's sort of the press aspect of it is going to be tied more heavily to Summer Game Fest than it was previously. And Xbox Fan Fest is not happening this year. And I've had a lot of DMs about Fan Fest. I don't know if you have, Rand, from
yeah, I've gotten a few.
The Xbox universe, as it were. Yeah, yeah, we'll talk about that a bit more in a bit, but yeah, it's so some people have said to me, like, is this going to be a more low-key event? Because they're not doing the big press event, they're not doing a show, they're not doing a live show with an audience. Like last year they they rented out, I can't remember the name of the theater, but there was a theater rented, and then they also did like a big rooftop party at the Academy Awards Museum in LA. And this year there's like nothing. Unless like there's some secret shit for, celebrities like Paris, who's
Yeah,
in the chat.
yeah.
So maybe there is some other stuff
Paris
going
always
down.
gets the red carpet treatment. I'm sure.
Yeah, Paris gets a red carpet treatment,
He'll be
and
there in L.A. on the rooftop parties. You know, the celebrity that he is.
yeah, true that. And then the rest of us just have to, watch it from the comfort of our beds at home. Do you watch the showcase in bed,
No,
or do you?
I don't watch anything in bed. I'm not one of those people that. Well, see, I grew up and I never had a TV in my room, so it wasn't something where you like watch TV and you see people that like lay in their bed and watch TV. That was never a thing for me. If I wanted to
That's
watch
me.
television as a kid, I had to get up and go down in the TV room or go down in the basement where there was the other TV, or actually where all the game consoles and stuff were hooked up, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, like watching TV in bed is like weird to me. And even now, like where I could put my own TV in my own room, it's like it just doesn't feel right. I don't know, and I know that's like a condition of how I grew up, but yeah, I don't know. Like but I've also known people like when you're on the couch and you're playing games and you're talking to people in party chat. Like I've had people in party chat fall asleep in party chat while then you can hear them snore, and I'm
I
like, is this really a thing? Like, I don't know. I've never fallen asleep while playing a game or talking to people
don't
in a
think I
party
have.
chat or whatever. And I've had like 3 or like 4 friends over the course of time in a party with people, and then all of a sudden you start hearing some snoring, and I'm like, how do they fall asleep? Like, I don't know. That's everybody's different, I guess. But yeah, no, watching stuff in bed has never been a thing. If I'm in bed, I'm sleeping. And if I'm awake, I'm not in bed. So, you know, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of, I don't know. Do you watch stuff in bed?
Well, I suppose I do have a TV in my room, like I always have since I was a little kid. It was one of them. But like my entire universe is in my room. I got
Yeah.
I got my office desk here with all my office equipment, and then in the other corner is my TV and my vinyl player. You know, because being a hipster, I never use it, but it's there and it looks nice. And then there's my bed, so I can watch from bed. But then I've got Rand. I don't know if you've got one of these, right? But I've got this sort of uh, it's like a mount next to my bed, so I can put my phone and have my phone sort of hands free on my bed, so I can watch like YouTube in bed, which is kind of like watching TV. And I don't even need to hold the phone. Like, do you do that? Do you use your
No.
phone in bed?
No.
No?
Nope.
That's remark. That's like really healthy of you.
I
I,
mean,
I'm I'm impressed.
the bed's for sleeping, bro. That's what the bed's for.
That's what my parents say. Like the reason you can't sleep is because you're using the phone in bed all night. And I'm like,
Yeah, I
well,
mean, you got the blue
yeah,
light that.
maybe.
I mean, you should. They always tell you to kind of stop using technology that gives off a certain light, like blue light, a couple hours before you go to bed, so you can sleep. It's probably the reason why your sleep hasn't been good.
It's never good. I mean, I literally just woke up,
Oh,
and it's like, well, I woke up at 8:30 p.m. So that tells you everything you need to know about my sleep cycle.
yeah, right.
Um, but hey, we're rocking and rolling. But I'm
Now,
very, very. At least I'm not. I'd rather be getting up at 8 p.m. than be sleepy for the podcast, right?
yeah. But anyways, like we said, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I guess I'll leave this kind of cryptic statement for now, and then we'll expand upon it when we talk about the showcase and all the stuff later. But it's weird because I've actually been told by 3 different people who don't have any connections to each other, because you always wonder when people tell you something like, are they hearing it from this other person? And it's like, what are the how many steps separated is this person from another person? It's like, how connected It's like, have they been told this from this person who's now telling me this, but then that other person tells you this, so it's like it's all just like the same rumor, basically just regurgitated in a different way, and you're always kind of be careful about like falling for that, because I think there's been instances of that happening, but
Mm.
I've heard from like three different people that like Xbox with this showcase they want to go big. I mean, that could be just. I mean, I guess they have like the stuff where they could do all that. So they certainly have the studios and everything and all the different stuff to go big in the reveals. But yeah, I've been told by like three different people that's the plan. I mean, I don't know how it all will end up, but yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later and maybe like expand upon it. But we'll see. But Jez, yeah,
Well, now you've heard it from 4 people, because I'm saying the same thing.
Okay. Now we'll see. But then the thing's like, well, who told you? Is it the same person that told me, and then they told
The
someone else?
person who told you is definitely not the person who told me.
Someone says I'm
And I'll
coming.
explain that spooky comment in a bit.
Let me see. Someone says my volume's a little low. Let me see if Discord changed my
Your shit.
my stuff. No, they didn't. They did not. So let me just change it on OBS. All right. I raised my volume on OBS a little bit, but it's where it normally is. So I don't know why it'd be coming in quiet, but I'll just keep an eye on it, I guess. But anyways, so that's 4 people now. So we'll see how this all plays out. But Jez, we're going to do some housekeeping really quickly. And this episode is brought to you by Surfshark, yeah?
Oh, muted. Surfshark VPN.
Yeah.
Rawr. That's a shark noise.
Yeah, maybe never do that again.
Does that
do sharks
is
make
that
noise
not the
like
noise?
that? I don't think they do.
Yeah, sharks. They do in Jaws, don't they? They go.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. Do sharks make noises?
I mean,
I
I'm
don't
sure
fucking know, actually. Come to think of
they
it.
might.
But anyway, I digress. We are sponsored by Surfshark VPN, the premier VPN for surfing and being a shark. Link in description for 86% off. 100% log-free VPN. So, hey there, XB2 universe. Online security and access to global content has never been more important. That's why I'm excited to share that Surfshark VPN, the ultimate tool for safe and unlimited browsing, is sponsoring the Xbox 2 podcast and has a great offer for our listeners, not readers. Surfshark.
How'd you
readers.
mess that one up? Come on now.
Well, Joaquin might be doing his, he does audiobooks for books. Maybe he does the speech to text for the podcast. I don't know.
Yeah.
Surfshark, based in the Netherlands, operates free of data retention laws and uses log-free RAM-based servers. Your data is never stored. Protect your online presence, dodge hackers, and access public Wi-Fi with complete confidence. But that's not all. Surfshark unlocks content worldwide so you can stream, browse, and enjoy your favorite shows wherever you are in the whole world. With Clean Web, you're free from ads, trackers, and malware. And here's the cherry on top. One subscription covers unlimited devices, perfect for families or tech lovers. So don't wait. Get Surfshark VPN today and take advantage of this incredible offer for the Xbox 2 universe. 86% off a 2-year plan with a couple of extra months thrown in. Click the link in the description for start surfing securely and freely. Trust me, this is one deal you won't want to miss. That's a surf shark biting a hacker who's trying to steal your fucking data.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe next time don't cut out unless you actually know what a shark looks like. Maybe you just need to get some. Maybe you need to get some water in your so you can.
Oh, like it's like a water sound effect or something.
Yeah, how a shark would sound underwater. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, Surfshark VPN, they're an awesome company. They've got a huge variety of apps. You can use Surfshark VPN on any device, Android, iOS, Windows, anything. I use it. I got a browser extension and I just flip it on when I want to use it. I used it in Hawaii when I was on vacation to watch UK Netflix because American Netflix doesn't have all the WWE stuff I want to watch, to my shock and horror. What's the deal with that, Rand? Why doesn't American Netflix have all the WWE stuff? But anyway,
They don't.
UK and European Netflix has all the
Well,
WWE stuff. So if you want to,
because SmackDown's on USA Network and NXT's on CW, so in the
yeah, I
United
don't know.
States.
So there's that whole thing, but there's also like if you just don't fancy ISP or anyone else snooping on your internet connection, Surfshark encrypts all that shit, and then no logs because Netherlands has no data retention laws, and it's 86% off for 2 years for blanket internet security, and able to mask your connection to any region in the globe, on the globe.
Hmm.
So yeah, Surfshark VPN. Thanks to them for sponsoring us. And if you take advantage of their offer, it also supports Xbox 2 podcast and supports what we do. So really appreciate you guys checking them out.
Indeed.
So that's Surfshark.
All right, Jez. Jesus. We also have the wonderful Patreon members who support the podcast. Like I mentioned, we have an exclusive podcast up we did on Tuesday, which was a lot of fun. We even had a couple members from the Xbox 2 universe actually call into the show, jump in, and talk about what's worrying them. So that was a lot of fun. And I think you have an Xbox 2 plus one coming up on this Tuesday. Yes, so be on the
I do,
lookout.
yeah.
Be on the lookout for that.
Oh, actually, I think the next Xbox 2 is going to be on Thursday, and we've got a very special guest. It's just going to be me and a game developer. It's the first time we've had a game developer on XB2 plus one, so that should be interesting. Should be fun. It's a game developer for an upcoming game. I won't spoil the surprise, but join our free Patreon if you want to get more info on that. The Patreon is free for the news and info and stuff like that, and yeah.
Now we got to give some shout outs here to the Xbox 2 MVPs. We got Ethan Linhair's VA. We got Resin Force. We got iMike Zero. We got Tier, Shrapnel, Inner Machine, Just James 93, Holy Dark Death, Steve Stompy, 09C Mine, James Wiseau, Trickster for Trey, Laser Wolf, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Foreign Object, RS Donks, Randall Thor 19, Silas, James Moore, Bilbo T. Baggins, Katriox, Bright Chunger 1, Discarded Caboose, Justin Duel, Frank Mariano, Sean Kramer, PB Bro King, Asa T. and Madison, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Wagerman, Pat Rock, Scarcely Relevant, Darren Torpy, Briggs Country, Prof. JJJ, and Wolfgang KPZ. Thank you guys for rocking out with us. And if anybody wants to ask a question and answer thread is now open. It's been open, I think, since yesterday or the day before. Yeah, head on over there and drop us a line. We will definitely answer the question at the end of the show. So we got that going on. But Jez, since we forgot to talk about it last week, I figured I was going to ask you about Doom: The Dark Ages, because you got to play it. And we were supposed to talk about it last week, but we didn't because I forgot about it.
You did.
So you went out to their London office?
Yeah, I went out to Bethesda's London office to have a quick. Well, it wasn't quick. It was a long session. It was like 3 hours worth, I think, of playing Doom: The Dark Ages.
Sounds glorious to me.
Yeah. So the way the preview was set it was like a full blown press build, and I suppose like maybe they'll give a hands on at some events over the summer. Oh wait, no, it's coming out pretty
Yeah,
soon.
it's coming
Maybe
out
not
next
then, I guess.
month. It's literally
Is
coming
there
out a
is
month
there
from now.
PAX? The PAX East? I don't
I
know.
don't
Okay,
think
I guess
I mean, it still
I
could be at PAX East or
yeah
whatever, but I mean, the game comes out in a month,
yeah
which is
I
pretty
guess
awesome.
nobody's getting hands on with that shit then. So I guess you know it was just for press then. So the way it was structured was they had like four save files set up to play. So the first save file was like a more traditional Doom level, sort of um that sort of wide linear style from Doom 2016 kind of. That was like the first one with the auto map and finding different ways and secrets and all that kind of stuff. The second one was hands-on with the mech. And if I'm might be getting my Doom lore wrong, but I think it's called an Atlas Surf mech. SERF, if I remember correctly. Might be wrong on that. Someone in chat, correct me if I'm wrong. But got hands on with this mech, which is like, it's not like a Titanfall mech, which is like a 3-story building. This is like a skyscraper sized mech. It's absolutely crazy. So I got hands on with the mech, and then I got hands on with the dragon, the mecha dragon from the trailers. And then finally, it was like hands on with a more open world style map, like super wide linear. So, um, just talking about the boots on the ground kind of gameplay, they have intentionally made you feel more like a space marine in this one. Like, in Warhammer Space Marine, how like the character feels like heavy and plodding, and like you can hear him walking, like this huge hulking walking tank. Like the ground sort of thunders when you walk and makes this huge metal clanking sound, more like a space marine. But at the same time, you still got that Doom style agility. You still move quite fast. And also you've got the shield saw, which lets you sort of zoom across the map and smash huge areas of monsters in a huge like shield bash kind of arc. So there's still that sort of Doom sensibility of zipping around, killing loads of mobs really, really quickly. And then also you've got like your fodder mobs, which you can kill very rapidly with the shield saw to get health and ammo back and all that kind of stuff. But then there's this like, as you've seen from the trailers, this new parry mechanic, right? So like when monsters do certain attacks, you can parry with the shield saw, which leaves them open for like an execution basically. So like they leave themselves open and then you can punch them. Some mobs you can punch multiple times in like a melee kind of combo and then execute them and then get some, more health back and stuff like that. And it feels, Rand, oh man, it feels like so good. It feels so good when you're crunching demons with your bare hands and stuff. But later on in the game, you unlock a ball and chain. I can't remember what they're called in the game, but it's like a mace on
Yeah,
a
like
like
a
a
mace.
ball with spikes
Yeah.
on the chain, and that as I think I'm not sure if you can switch between them off the top of my head. Maybe you can, but I think that replaces the punching, the melee
Well,
attacks because
I think they have 3 melee weapons in the game, right? Something like that.
okay, so maybe you can switch between them then. But I didn't know if you could during the demo, or I didn't even try. But at that point, my time was kind of running out. Yeah, Solid Theory in chat says that's a flail. Yeah, that's what I was reaching for, a flail, right? So you get a flail, right? And that replaced the punching, and maybe you can switch between those weapons. I don't know if you can off the top of my head. Maybe you must be able to, I suppose. But from then on, it was like you parry, and then you literally beating these monsters to death with the
Mm.
flail, and it's fucking amazing, dude. It's fantastic. It's like I just want more of this. Let me beat these monsters to death with this flail. And then but then there's all still the weapons. You've got your super shotgun, and then there's all these new weapons that sort of have like a medieval kind of like steampunk almost kind of edge. Like there's a weapon I can't remember what it's called now off the top of my head, but there's a weapon that's kind of like it kind of reminds me of the flat cannon from Unreal Tournament 99, but the ammo are skulls. So you throw a skull in this weapon and it grinds the skull, and then you spray fragments of skull at the enemies in like a auto shotgun blast, bro. It's like, what the
all the
fuck?
footage of the
It was
game makes the game seem like
it
incredible. I
was
mean, especially if you're already a fan of Doom,
dude,
which
it was the most metal gun I've ever seen in the
yeah,
game.
right.
It was
You
so
put
fucking
enemies
metal.
like skulls in it to shoot them out and kill more enemies. Yeah, I mean, how much more
Yeah,
metal can you get? But
it was so metal.
one of the things I've seen is that I have seen some worries from certain people that the game is
I
too
was getting
heavily
to that.
focused on parries and stuff like that and
I was
reflections
getting to
and
this.
okay.
Right, so that's when it feels really good, right? When
Mm-hmm.
you're sort of going toe to toe with the big cyber demons and stuff like that, right? But there is a problem, and I hope they
Doesn't
tone it
sound
down
like a
or
problem to me. You know me, I love my parrying systems.
no, but this is different, you see, because the problem is you can only parry certain attacks,
Mm-hmm.
green attacks, right?
Okay.
And so, and there are some enemies in the game that you can't really hit until they've given you a green attack to parry. So sometimes I was standing still, just like, give me the green attack, come on, and it felt like it was like a road bump in the action, the flow of the combat. It was like this is like a fucking traffic light. I'm waiting for a green light in order to carry on fighting, you know. And nowhere did this feel more apparent than with the Mecha Dragon, because the Mecha Dragon, his like main weapon is like a autocannon, which felt terrible. The autocannon felt terrible. And to be fair to id, they did say they're still working on the Mecha Dragon stuff. So I'm hoping they take this feedback to heart. But the main cannon on the Mecha Dragon felt shit. It felt
Hmm.
terrible. And you could only get the sort of more powerful railgun kind of attack after you'd done a parry of one of these green attacks. So I was just like I was like moving into enemy attacks just to parry them, or like do a perfect dodge with the dragon. And it was like it felt like counterintuitive. It was like someone loved this mechanic so much they didn't stop to think whether it made sense. Why would I want to move towards an attack? If I'm Doom guy and I'm riding a dragon, it's like, oh, I can't use my more powerful weapon unless I parry a green attack like a traffic light. It was counterintuitive. It was like it felt like dumb, to have to wait for these green attacks. And in the final level, which was like very Halo-like, I have to say, it's a very, very open, flat kind of map. There were tanks and, sci-fi demonic spaceships flying overhead doing dogfighting and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, this is Halo, you know. And I think there are some Halo combat designers working on this, which kind of scans, right? Um, but it was like uh when you're in that sort of open world level and there's like, I don't know, 100 demons on screen, it becomes a bit like a bullet hell more than Doom. And you just sort of like weaving around all these sort of orange attacks, which you can't parry, and waiting for the green attacks that you can parry. It's like, why does the demon even give me a green attack? Why doesn't it only do orange attacks? Then I can't parry it. So I was just sitting there thinking, like, I could have parried that if it had only been green. It won't let me express my skill because it wants me to wait for these arbitrary green versions of the same attack. And often these green attacks just look ugly. They're like flat 2D textures, like JPEGs and shit. Especially in the Mecha Dragon sections. I was just like, this is not it. This is so bad. This is like, I feel like I'm playing Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, but even worse. So hated the Mecha Dragon. I absolutely hated it. But everything else was fantastic. When the game shined the most is when it felt like Doom 2016. Those linear kind of levels, um, wide linear kind of levels with lots of things to discover, lots of things to explore. Those sort of like thoughtfully designed combat scenarios. That's when the game felt the best. Every time it strayed from that formula, it started to feel not as good. So, I played on Ultra Violence. And then, like, towards the end of the demo, I was like, I started getting fed up with the Mecha Dragon because on Ultra Violence, the Mecha Dragon gets one-shotted if you get hit by anything. So again, tuning. So in the end, I was just like, okay, let's put it back down to normal, which I think is called Hurt Me Plenty. Um, but yeah, I don't know, man. I think they overthought the parry mechanic a little bit too much, and didn't design it as well in a way that I think they could have made it better. It could have been like the players could express their skill a bit more if I could parry anything on a cooldown, maybe, rather than just waiting for these green attacks. So I don't know. We'll see if they takes any of that feedback to heart, because I know I wasn't the only person who said this. When I'm doing previews, I purposefully don't read other opinions to stop them influencing my own. But then I did go and read some of the previews after I published mine. It was like, oh god, they're all saying the same thing I did. So at least I'm not crazy, right? So yeah, overall, very, very good, very excited, a lot of promise, but I would like to see some tweaks. And I don't doubt if everyone else feels the same way once it launches. I expect like any DLC will probably tweak that shit even further, but it doesn't break the game by any means. It's just like this could be a little better, you know. So overall, fantastic though. Absolutely hype as shit, man. Really
I mean,
enjoyed it.
I'm incredibly excited for next month to be able to. I really like. I remember back when Doom 2016 was kind of first shown off, and people were very much wary of the reboot because like it hadn't really done anything super good in a long time. I mean, there was like Rage and stuff, but even Rage was kind of wasn't a game that was really had the great reviews or whatever. I mean, it was a fun game, but it wasn't like something that you'd be like, "Oh, it is back." And I wasn't someone who really enjoyed Doom 3. So when it was like, "Oh, we're going back to Doom and we're doing it this way," a lot of people, especially at the time, but remember Bethesda, I don't know if I think it was they were not like giving early reviews to people. And I remember it was like
Yeah.
the talk was they're not doing that because they know their games are shit. Because if you knew your games were good, why wouldn't you want to give it out to reviewers to then spread the message that your game's great? Because Bethesda was sort of in that like little bubble where for whatever it was like a few games they did where they didn't want to send out review codes to reviewers, and that'll change. But a lot of people were very much looking at Doom 2016 and being like, yeah, prove me wrong. Like, you don't got what it takes anymore, id. Your time has passed. And then they proved everybody wrong. It was an amazing game. And it was like, all right, well, we'll see if you got another one in you. And then Doom Eternal came out. And I like Doom Eternal more than I like Doom 2016. But there are a segment of people that really don't like Doom Eternal because it kind of switched it up and don't like the Marauder bosses or whatever. But I love playing Eternal, even though it could be pretty difficult, especially the DLCs. I mean, the DLCs were like ridiculously hard even on the normal difficulty. And I was like, all right, well, maybe it's going to do something else because if you played the DLC, you know that story is kind of wrapped up. But they're doing this prequel stuff, and I'm like, okay, I mean that's kind of cool. But everything I've seen of Doom Dark Ages is just, it's like hook me up, put the IV in me, and just inject Doom straight into my veins. Because all that stuff looks super fantastic, and I am someone who's very much a fan of pairing systems. For whatever reason, that stuff does not get old when you're just pairing attacks. So I like
it feels
that
like
idea
skill
in
expression,
Doom,
right?
but I do wonder how, because they say like they wanted to put the story more up front in this one, because a lot of the story sometimes is really kind of just in like the notes and the data stuff that you pick up, and this one I think is supposed to have more cutscenes. So they're
Yeah,
gonna.
I mean, I will say this, like that I didn't get to see much of the story. I think that was intentional, for no spoilers and stuff. But there was a couple of scenes where they showed off some of the new villains, and they immediately resonated with me. There was this like demonic prince guy that looks like something out of Hellraiser, and I was just like, yeah, that is it. I want
That's
to know more about this guy. Creepy as hell.
It sounds cool.
So yeah, so I think they've probably nailed the story aspect and the sort of boots on the ground kind of gameplay. The Mecha Dragon needed work last I saw, um, but overall very very strong. I'm really hyped to see the full final finished product, bro.
Yeah. Well, anyways, guys, if you're enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button, please. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Let everybody know that we are live. We'd greatly appreciate it. And
Sure would.
you know what? We're gonna start off with Banjo because I feel like I want to give my Banjo Bros something to kind of salivate over because it's kind of been like they've been asking for Banjo for a long time, and it definitely seems like either it might happen, it might not, but it definitely seems lately like it's not going to happen, and they're just patiently waiting for the return of the bird and the bear, right? And well, Toys for Bob in a recent interview, uh, they kind of said they wanted to work on Banjo-Kazooie, Jez. And
They sure did.
I know there's like a handful of the Banjo fans out there. So, first they talked about this new game they're working on, which they said they can't spill the beans just yet. The development is going well, and they said, quote, "I will say that we're very much in the thick of development. The team is very thrilled about how the experience is shaping up. This game is big and ambitious and pushes our craft to new heights." So, and they're gonna share more when the time is right. And the question is, will the time be right on June 8th, Jez, to reveal the game that Toys for Bob is working on? I wonder if that will be when the time is right.
I'm gonna guess most likely that is probably exactly when the time is right,
Yes,
buddy.
probably.
Pal of mine. And I reckon, like, I don't know. I got a conspiracy theory that this is a game that they'd already been working on for a while, probably, and that would have been cancelled, maybe with unless this, separation went through. But yeah, I imagine we're gonna see it then.
But I
And
think
my bet is that it's Spyro, but there's
Yeah,
no
Spyro
real
4.
evidence that it is Spyro right now. But that's what everyone's expecting, right?
Well, I definitely feel like it's an Activision IP. And that's almost why I like in my mind one of the reasons they're working on Xbox with this project is because the project they were working on is an IP that Xbox and Activision owns, and that they couldn't just basically throw that all away because if you're making Spyro
No.
4 and then all of a sudden you're not part of Xbox and Activision anymore, well, your work kind of goes down the drain. So I sort of feel like the reason they're partnering with them is because they have to, because it's based on an IP that they don't have, they don't have the rights to.
Yeah.
But the quote that everybody's talking about here is this. It says, quote, "One company we'd like to work with is one we're already working with, Team Xbox. They've been a great partner, and they also have a very interesting roster of characters that Toys for Bob could have a lot of fun with. The Honey Bear is the first one that comes to mind. I think we can all agree Banjo's been hibernating long enough." Now, is that a tease of maybe their next project? Because clearly, I don't think they're working on Banjo. But is this, if Spyro 4, which we assume is the game they're working on, goes well and does well enough, do you think Toys for Bob will be the one to bring back Banjo and finally satiate the appetite of the, 50 Banjo Bros out there that exist in the world, right?
Well, here will be my bet, right? I suppose, like, if Spyro 4, presuming it is Spyro 4, if that does well, I don't think they'd put out this information with Canadian Guy A on YouTube, the big Spyro Crash Bandicoot YouTuber. I don't think they'd put that info out there with him unless they were angling, you know? So maybe it's a bit sneaky of them and being like, yeah, if we get people hyped about this, it'll pressure Microsoft to greenlight it or whatever. But I think it would depend on like how well Spyro 4 did, at the end of the day. Because I think more so than ever, Microsoft's probably battening down the hatches, with global tariffs threatening hardware sales and,
Yeah.
supply chains and other thing. So Xbox is probably like counting its pennies a little bit right now, which is probably why we don't have a fan fest this year, for example. But, I think they're probably expecting like further out things to be okay because they greenlit BlizzCon, for example, which is not cheap. So, I want to believe that this is how we get Banjo back. For Banjo fans, obviously, I've never really played it myself, but I want to believe this is how we get Banjo back, but not only how we get Banjo back, like how we get Skylanders back, how we get targeting youngsters again back, because Microsoft has to be looking at the Minecraft movie right now, which is, on track for $1 billion.
The
And
Minecraft
you said
movie it blew up. I mean,
it blew the fuck up.
It
And
outdid its
you always
industry
said,
tracking, right? So
yep.
they were projecting it would only make $60 million, and it almost tripled that. It made $160 million for the opening weekend. It spawned new memes, which are
Chicken
going
jockey.
crazy. On did you see the footage of someone who actually brought a live chicken to the Minecraft movie?
What?
A live chicken.
Oh my god!
It's hard
People
enough,
are ridiculous.
It's hard
man.
enough to like sneak in food from the outside, because here they don't want you to bring in cheap food because they want you to pay for the overpriced stuff there. But I've always been able to sneak in food, right? Like no problem. Like these,
You sneaky boy.
these like
You're
if
just
you
a
watch,
criminal, bro.
If you watch any of these videos, whether they're on YouTube Shorts or TikTok or whatever, these kids, young men, definitely under. This looks like they're under 20s, but the theater's just full of these young dudes, and they have like these huge bags of popcorn, and I'm thinking to myself, like, how the hell did you get this into the theater? And when Jack Black goes chicken jockey, and the camera pans around, and these people are just dumping these huge bags of popcorn all over the theater. And I'm thinking to myself, well, imagine if you had to like clean up after this. But then there was one where the guy, he was doing the chicken jockey. He was on someone else's shoulders, and then he had an actual live chicken with him. Like an actual chicken. And I'm like, how the hell were they able to pull this off? And I definitely think there is some like, okay, we're going to do this a little bit over the top now because we can post it to social media and get views and stuff. But, I mean, it's pretty much going crazy. It's on its way to $1 billion, which it should make considering it's Minecraft, right?
But the point I brought that up, and this kind of goes back to what you said about them projecting it like, projecting low and then it doing way more than that. That kind of like, it kind of exemplifies what I'm talking about here, where Microsoft just doesn't get the younger audience, right? They probably watched it in test screenings of like, oh god, this is not a good movie. And then like kids they just love it. They absolutely love it. I know like a bunch of parents who their kids are demanding to go multiple times. They want to watch it over and over again. They love the audience participation, like the popcorn and ridiculous and stuff. Like I've seen it compared to the modern version of Rocky Horror Picture Show. Yeah. So like Rocky Horror as a sort of audience participation kind of stuff, right? Anticipation. Sorry, I just had to get that. But anyway, Minecraft. So like, if I'm a Microsoft and I'm looking at like, oh wow, kids are important. Maybe we should get more kids because these kids are going to grow up. They're going to grow up with nostalgia for Minecraft in their hearts, and that's going to feed the next adult generation of Minecraft.
Let's give them Banjo, a character they've never heard of and don't care about in any way, shape, or form.
No, but dude, they hadn't heard of Astrobot, man. I'm sorry, but like again,
but guess what?
Speaking,
guess
I know
what?
Kids
those kids
Astrobot.
in that theater watching Minecraft with live chickens and throwing popcorn around aren't the ones who played Astrobot, though.
Sure, but I'm just saying, like, you have to start somewhere. There has to be a grassroots.
Sure.
There has to be like, let's make some games for kids.
Let's be honest. The only people that really want to play Banjo is Paris. Mr. Broomstick, right there. That's it. It's really just Paris, just so he can say I told you so. You know, like yes, I've been waiting for this day forever. Banjo's returned. You know, now I can die at peace. I finally lived long enough to see Banjo come back. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, like there is that family segment is important. And, you know, that's one of the reasons why Nintendo is in, you know, the spot that they are, is that kids grow up with Nintendo and they form that attachment to those characters and they become like Nintendo fans for life. And then they introduce those Nintendo franchises to their kids, and then the cycle sort of repeats itself. So I get it. And, you know, Toys for Bob is a very good developer, and they were stuck in the Call of Duty mines. They're just but they were able to free themselves. So I hope they're able to create the games that they want. I hope that Spyro 4 is a big success for them, that they can then take that and be like, all right, listen. Because it also, to me, it's also kind of, you know, when you say these things publicly, it's also kind of like public negotiations. Where, like, of course, Microsoft has heard about this. And maybe they've even pitched the game to Microsoft privately before. I mean, hell, we even had Thomas Mahler, I think, talk about Banjo not that long ago. Like, how Moon Studios would have loved to bring back the ones to do Banjo. And, you know, so it's like it's out there in the thing, and so they're probably thinking about it. And yeah, I mean, maybe it's something that does happen in the future, but it's definitely not the game they're working on, clearly. So It's just a matter of, all right, you know, if we'll see. And I don't know. The question is, what comes first, Fallout 5 or Banjo? Which one comes first? Or does one of them not even come at all? Does Banjo not even ever show up? You know, it's interesting. Now, you know, you brought up Minecraft, and I wanted to kind of switch gears to it because the reason I have it in the title and it is a topic is not so much because of the movie. Well, I guess it does have to do with the movie, but it has to do with everything. Where it's like, here's the movie and it's made money. But then here's what a good movie and a success looks like and how it helps the game. Because the report came out that Minecraft, the movie, increased game sales and monthly active users for Minecraft, the game, by over 30%.
Holy.
Which, this isn't the first time we've seen this happen in regards to very popular TV show adaptations or movies to increase you know, the sales and stuff of the video game it's based on. Like, most recently we saw it with Fallout, right? Show, I think, is like the second most popular show on Amazon, and nobody expected it to be. And then for like months after that, we heard about was how many new players there were to Fallout 76, how many people were playing Fallout 4, and how much money. Like, not only do you create this huge hit for the streamer and you blow up the value of your own IP, but because of that, you're actually earning more money on the games that you've produced in the series, because now you have a new audience coming to check it out. And it definitely seems like this is more a recent thing, right? Because there's been video game stuff in the past, but not really to this level, because it's not just like Fallout. It was like Last of Us, for instance. Like, when Last of Us HBO show, there were reports that like Last of Us was doing very well. And just to kind of, bro, did you see they're selling another Last of Us again?
Another one?
No, the Last of Us Complete Edition this time.
This is becoming. Is this going to replace the Skyrim meme?
Well, I mean,
playing Skyrim over and over again.
It's like what, 2 games in the collection that have like six re-releases. It's just a repackaging of Last of Us, you know, PS5 remake for part 1 and the remake for part 2, into a collection that people can buy, and it's going to get a physical collection later in the year for like, I think it's like $110, the physical stuff. I think you can get it now, like the digital version for 90. I mean, it's clearly positioned right before the movie comes out, or the TV show. The TV show comes back this week, so it's
Yeah.
clearly positioned for people who might own a PlayStation or about to pick up a PlayStation. To then, when they turn it on there, they can see, oh, here's The Last of Us Complete Edition for, I think it's like $90 digitally. But then like you have like the limited edition physical version for 110 that comes with like a steel book and a note from Neil Druckmann and some like lithium prints and stuff. So they're clearly releasing in this way, obviously to get the fans to rebuy it, to spend more money, and then to have like a listing there for anybody who is like coming into the wants to see what the games are all about based off the TV show, right? So we've seen that, and there have been quite some successes in the space. And I know we talked about it before, but like there's the Gears stuff, right? There's Netflix announced the Gears movie and a Gears animated show. I mean, hell, we remember when Cyberpunk Edge Runners came out ahead of I think it was this 2.0 patch. All of a sudden, everybody was going back to Cyberpunk because of how amazing the anime was. So,
Shall I drop something?
Go ahead, drop it, of course, bro.
I've heard. I'm not gonna say what game it is,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a Blizzard franchise that's getting some kind of Netflix treatment as well.
Interesting. There's not that many Blizzard franchises, so let's see. That's Overwatch.
Yeah, so
there's World of Warcraft, but I mean nobody cares about World of Warcraft. There's StarCraft, but I mean StarCraft hasn't been around in a long time, so unless you were going to pair, unless you were to pair, I did see in your one of your recent articles that you did say that not StarCraft, but a legendary Blizzard IP that's been on the rocks for a while is gonna make a return soon, or return.
Oh, did I write that?
Or maybe I could have sworn you wrote it. Did you not?
I don't know. I think you're imagining things, bro.
Did I imagine things?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Well, there's not that many IPs that Blizzard has that could potentially come back. I mean, Phil did talk about StarCraft a bit when the deal completed. Did he not? So, I mean, if I were to guess one, it'd be StarCraft coming back.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, we did hear there were when the survival game kind of died out and they canceled it. Jason Schreier did report that there were members of that team that were sort of doing a StarCraft Far Cry game, like a StarCraft first-person shooter, like Far Cry style. Do you remember that reporting?
I do very much remember that reporting, Rand.
Interesting.
It's very, very good reporting.
I would be interested in StarCraft if
you don't
it was.
Miss, right?
Look, if StarCraft wasn't an RTS and it was more of a first-person shooter or third-person shooter, I'd be way more interested in playing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously going to have a broader pit, but I think you can do both with StarCraft.
You probably could.
I think you should do both too, but I don't know. That's all hypotheticals for now.
Sure.
I mean, the rumor's vague, so we'll find out what's true. Probably, I suppose, a good time to announce things like StarCraft or what they're going to do in Netflix shows and the future of their other franchises. Would be BlizzCon, which is announced for next year, and I'm gonna get there by hook or by crook. I don't care how.
But I mean,
I'm gonna get there.
But the Minecraft movie is another example of a successful, media product that's not a game impacting the game in significant ways. So it makes you kind of think like, all right, if you have an IP that you want to do something for, then you might as well do it, because if it's good, it's going to resonate with the audience, right? Yeah. So we know like Grounded's got an animated show, I think, at Netflix. Minecraft supposedly has one too. You know, like I mentioned, Gears and Gears. You know, they're doing the movie and the animated show. You know, the sad thing about it is this just reinforces to me just how much of a failure the Halo TV show was.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, this is the issue. Like, I suppose on the one hand, it's a risk because it can, if it's bad, it can
if it's
hurt your
bad, yeah,
IP
if it's bad,
potentially.
if it's bad, like every single one of these things that comes out is like, oh, the game saw an increase of X amount of this and X amount of monthly active users, blah 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 blah, for all the ones that are successful. And then the Halo TV show came out and never heard a peep about, you know, any sort of audience that drove to the game in any significant way. And there's tons of games to choose from. It wasn't like all of a sudden it was like, oh look, a Master Chief Collection rose 30% or monthly active users for that, or more people were playing Halo Infinite and spending more money on microtransactions and skins and stuff. Didn't hear a peep about it. And then, you know, season 2 came out and then it was over. And it was just like, you look at these other successful stories and of how much they have helped the games grow themselves, and it's like, that was a gigantic miss. Because the Halo show
Well,
could still be going on, could still be, and if it was done well, it would still be going on, and then you'd have that effect of, you know, helping the game make more money and get more players. So
could they redeem it? Could they do a new show? Maybe, you know, the Fallout TV show showrunners could do
yeah,
it.
I don't. I mean, I think it's. I mean, they could, but I don't know. I think it's also
Is it too late for
it's
Halo?
it's not too late. I think it's just too soon to start again, because you're also going to be, if you're pitching it to Netflix, Netflix might look at you and be like, "But you just did it and it just failed. So why would we want to spend money on this to maybe get a product that has bad juju around it? Like, it's you know what I mean? So it's, I think
Bad
it'd be
juju.
I think it'd be more difficult to go to another streamer that they're with projects and be like, what about Halo? Because it just it didn't work. Granted, it's Paramount Plus and it's not like the biggest streamer there is, but I would imagine those people would be like, maybe wait a decade so people forget about it and then come back with something new or around those lines.
A whole decade?
I mean, you got to get away
That's a long time, dude.
That's why then it's important to make sure that the Gears movie and the Gears animated shows are really good, right? And Grounded is good, and it's like Xbox was onto something back in 2013. You know, we've seen the Nintendo stuff with their cartridges and the game sharing stuff. It's like, yeah, Xbox was onto something back then. It was too soon, but clearly it was like movies, TV shows and stuff, like they saw the future. It was just like, it wasn't they didn't execute it well enough.
No.
But now everything that they saw is commonplace now. It's just they were essentially 12 years too early. Which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because back then it was, oh, I don't want a camera and I don't want a microphone in my house. And now everybody loves cameras and microphones everywhere. It's just like a common accepted thing. And maybe that's because at the time people didn't trust Microsoft back then. And I guess maybe they trust Amazon or Apple more, you know? I mean, it's not even a big deal when like they say, oh, these recordings, like the Amazon, like if you say, hey Siri or whatever, or like, oh, the recordings go to them, but oh, we don't actually keep them for long. It's like people don't even really care, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Amazon announced recently that you can no longer opt out of uploading your voice clips to the cloud. So like when you speak to your Alexa now, and I just set everyone's speakers off when I said that, everything you say goes up to Amazon servers. And what the hell did they do with that information? Because sometimes, I swear to God, right?
Yes.
Me and my girlfriend will be
Targeted
having
ads.
a conversation.
Yep, and then you'll get an ad for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's creepy, man. It's like, how the hell did it know? Like,
it knows because
my phone's
it's listening.
microphones or my
it's
Amazon's
listening.
microphones or
yes.
what?
There's microphones
It's
all
creepy,
around
bro.
you. All right, chat.
If only there was some way to block that shit, like Surfshark VPN. Rawr.
Yeah, that'd be a function of that. But is anybody, chat? Have any of you guys actually Because I've had instances of that where you'll have a conversation and then all of a sudden you get a targeted ad for it. So like that definitely happens. But has anybody ever been thinking about something in their
Oh God.
head and then gotten an ad for it, and then it makes you paranoid because you're like looking around being like, wait a minute,
They're in my head.
I was literally thinking about this, I didn't mention it, I haven't spoken about this in a while, and I got a direct ad for it. Has that happened to anybody? Because it happened to me recently, and I was kind of just being like, is this a coincidence, or am I going crazy? Does that happen to you?
I don't know if thinking it has happened, but I do buy a ton of crap from Instagram. What did I buy recently? I was browsing on Instagram last night in bed, which you're not meant to do, use your phone in bed. And I came across, I can't remember his name, the Onion Knight dude from Dark Souls. And there was like bookends of him sitting on the edge of the shelf, and I was like, "Oh God, I've got to have that bookend." So then, yeah, spending money on just crap, just random Dark Souls crap from Amazon. So I guess it works, right? When they know what you like, or at least maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just weak. I don't know. Just weak when I see an ad for cool shit.
Could be.
I bought some anime stickers. Oh God, I'm terrible. It's no wonder I got no money. I could get a house, man, if I stop buying lattes and shit. That's what they say, right?
Or like, stop buying 12 inches of Lilith.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Stop buying that. So we got the super chat here from Special Nick's Inflated Ego. Great
wow,
username.
that's a big ego.
That's definitely great username and very true. It says, Jez, just wanted to drop by and tell you I've increased my already massive lead of being right over you again. A source told me 1 year ago that I'd be here today and I'd be writing this exact message, and here I am. Boom.
Oh man, I want to know who said that.
That's funny.
Oh, that's funny.
That's really funny.
That is funny.
That's very funny. Yeah. Special Nick. We love it when people clown on Special Nick. It's always a good time.
Yeah,
he's a good dude. We got Chris who says, if Xbox is truly thinking multi-platform, imagine the explosion of Nintendo fans if a new Banjo were to announce and it also comes to the Switch 2. I mean,
yeah, make it Switch and Xbox exclusive as well.
Yeah, well, they'd also throw it on PlayStation, but clearly,
yeah,
that's one of the things I think that actually might help it get made at some point. Because I think there's probably trepidation, one, of being none of our internal studios wants to work on this. Rare clearly doesn't want anything to do with their older properties. So we haven't gotten any pitches we like. But also at the same time, I don't, contrary to like, Paris or, other people being like, bring back the bear. I don't really think there's a large segment of the audience on Xbox that cares about Banjo in any way, shape, or form, right? I think that's one of the reasons why it never got finished, or it's never been greenlit, or it's, ever since Banjo Nut and Bolts, which was like 2009 on the 360, that, Banjo really hasn't had a presence, and they did the thing with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate where Banjo and Kazooie were a character, and, I mean, you've had the re-releases of Banjo-Kazooie 1 and 2 on Rare Replay, but I feel like they know their audience. There's not many Xbox fans that care about Banjo. But in their new multi-platform era, you can put that game on the Switch too, where I think Nintendo fans are the ones who care about Banjo the most. And remember, I always posed to you, I was like, Jez, what would be perfect for Banjo? If Xbox and Nintendo could work together and Nintendo made the game. So Nintendo made Banjo, and they just released it on the Switch and Xbox, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's actually a better chance of the game getting greenlit now because they know they could sell it to more people on a platform that, actually has interest in it. And they'll just be like, all right, it's on Game Pass on Xbox. Anybody wants to play it can play it. But in reality, like, the vast majority of players and sales are going to come from the Switch 2 because that's where the audience is. Flubber Thunder says on Android you can turn off listening in settings, Jez. So I know you probably have an Android because you don't have an iPhone.
I sure don't.
So you can turn that off. Rave Damos says Xbox has incredible IPs that could thrive in an era of arcade-style kart racers. Please tell me this dream exists within the internal Xbox team. I'm sure it's been talked about. I'm sure it's been bandied about. But then again, I think that kind of comes into the same thing about with Banjo is who do you get to make it? Because I don't think Xbox has an internal team that has the knowledge to make a kart racer, nor the temperament to make one, meaning the desire to. Because I really don't think any of the studios at Xbox are interested in making a kart racer. So at that point, you got to find a studio, an external studio to make one. And sure, you could probably go after the guys that make Sumo Digital. I think the ones that make like the Sonic kart racers. They're doing one now. So I mean, there are external studios.
I think the point is that we're constantly exploring ways that they can target youngsters because clearly, I think for PlayStation and Xbox both, the lack of investment in those younger audiences has driven a lot of those kids over to iPad, iPad kid, and a lot of those iPad kids are graduating straight to PC, and leaving console in the past, which is obviously hugely problematic for the existential viability of the console formula, and I suppose like the Nintendo Switches bucks that trend with regards to targeting youngsters. But, is that the best combination for an entire cohort of people? Have a Nintendo Switch be a nostalgic exclusive and then a PC for everything else? Because increasingly it seems like Nintendo's the only one left who's doing that console exclusive thing, I don't know. Boy racers, man. Could you hear that?
What?
Boy racers in my area, racing up and down the road.
I
don't know. Maybe
I did not hear that.
I've got a new mic AI filter thing that's supposed to get rid of background noise.
AI.
So I got the window open. Yeah, it's AI.
AI.
Oh God,
oh my lord.
It's supposed to filter out all background noise and just focus entirely on my voice. And like some motorbikes just whiz past my house really loud, revving their engines. And you didn't hear it, so that's impressive.
I didn't hear it. No, but I mean, with all the IP that Xbox has, they could clearly make a kart racer. Absolutely,
I agree.
It's just a matter of finding a team to make it, because I don't think any of Xbox's internal teams would care to, or want to, or have the knowledge to. I mean, some people would say Playground, but I mean, making an open world arcade style racing game is completely different than making a kart racer, in my opinion. So you would have to go to a studio that is known for that, and then you'd also probably you don't want a bad one, right? Because then that's the other thing. Like if it's gonna feature all your IP, God, you got to make sure that game's good, because it's going to be a game that literally encapsulates all that you are. You can't have it be a stinker. So I'm sure it's like, we probably want to look into this, but who do we get? I mean, I think Sumo would probably be pretty good, but other than that, I mean, how many other kart racers really even come out? That
it would be fantastic to get a kart racer that just had all the Activision, Microsoft IP.
It'd be cool.
Or can you imagine a tracer car that could teleport left and right,
and
or
then
something like
then
Tracer
the levels could be based on the IPs themselves. Like you're racing in the Overwatch arena, right? You're racing in the Gears arena. You're racing in the Halo arena. So it's got like the music from Halo with the imagery of Halo, right? Like it writes itself.
Why don't they do it
it's
then, man?
there. It's yeah, I don't know. I mean, who says they aren't
Does
doing it?
Xbox hate fun?
They might.
I think Xbox just hates fun, bro.
I don't know. I think there's just a lot of stuff that would go into it, and they would have to find the right studio. But I mean, it's clearly I think and because this isn't really any different than people being like Xbox should make like a brawler, like a brawler like
Smash Bros.
multiverses, like
Clone.
a Smash Bros. Because they have the IP to do it, and you could just have that. But then it's like, all right, well, who are you going to get to do it? And it's one of those things where it's like you're gonna have to probably go outside the studio structure to find a team to do it. I mean, otherwise it's like what you have Ninja Theory make it just because they're a more melee based team, but
Mm.
I mean these are ideas people have talked about ever since they acquired Bethesda and added Fallout and Elder Scrolls and Doom and Wolfenstein and all that stuff to their IPs, and then the call got bigger when they added ABK because now it's like Call of Duty, but then like World of Warcraft. Like, how many characters could you pull from World of Warcraft and put in a racer or a brawler? I mean, there's probably
There's so many.
right. Or how many could you just pull from Overwatch? Or how could you pull bosses from Diablo? It's not like the characters matter, but you could get characters from
Characters do matter, Dave.
Yeah, well, not the character you play as, but I mean the characters like like get. Yeah, although I guess you could say like maybe driving around a cart as Lilith would be a little funny, but yeah, I mean this isn't anything like we haven't talked about or people haven't asked for in a while. So there is that.
I think there is an aspect of some of these studios are like just genuinely protective of their IP.
Sure, there's that.
And are like, well, we don't want Lilith to be in a kart racer, for example. But I don't know. Obviously, Nintendo would do it, and they would just say to their studios, "Well, deal with it," because they don't even name their studios.
No, they don't.
Their studios have no identity. They're business development units. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Microsoft can't do some of this stuff, but people want that stuff, and it would sell at the end of the day. It would sell. So
yeah, they definitely could. Let's see. We have J Train. Rand, that happened to me at the store last week. I bought Tangelos for the first time ever. I didn't say or Google anything about them, and next day I got an ad. Yeah, man. Yeah, it happens. It's crazy. It made me think, like, it's like, have I mentioned this out loud before? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I haven't. Like, how am I getting an ad for this? Must be just a coincidence. We have Champagne Supernova saying, Hades 2 being a Switch 2 timed exclusive is really not tickling my pickle. I just wish Xbox saw exclusives as a sub-move or two, short-term sales for fiscal year 2026. Yeah, I have seen...
Yeah, I've seen a lot of complaints about Hades.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you said, I think you said this last week or on plus 2+1. They took the bag before.
They did
and
take
it worked
the bag.
really well for them, so
they took the bag.
Doing it again.
Yeah, they took the bag with the first game. And the first game sold incredibly well on the Switch. And then eventually it did come to PlayStation and Xbox, and it was in Game Pass. So I could imagine there's a lot of people who discovered the game through Game Pass when it came to Xbox, and were probably looking forward to playing it on Xbox. And it's like, okay, it's an early access, that's fine. I don't really play early access games. I kind of just wait to the full release. So I was just like, all right, I'll play Hades when it comes to Xbox, because clearly it's going to come. I think it was successful on Xbox and PlayStation and Switch, so it definitely was going to come at some point. But then it's like, oh, they're doing the whole exclusive thing, Switch 1 and Switch 2, and it's like, I guess that it makes sense considering how well it worked the first time. But, I think people... I don't know. There's a larger discussion to be had around exclusivity and who it helps and who it doesn't help. Because, like, you could, there's a large push to say, hey, exclusives are anti-consumer. Especially with Microsoft not really doing exclusives or doing is what we would call incidental exclusives. So something like Avowed and South of Midnight are exclusive because maybe it wasn't in the plan as they were making the game and they just didn't have the time or the resources to do it, or there wasn't a port studio ready, so those end up being exclusive. But who knows if they will be in the long run. And then it talks about like, well, hey, is that the reason why your console hardware is not selling anymore? Because what's the reason to buy an Xbox? Is because you don't got exclusives anymore. And then you look at this situation like Hades 2, and it's like, oh man, I don't want to be forced to, buy this system, or there's that whole thing about exclusives. And some people have kind of changed their opinions on it, especially with Xbox and PlayStation offering their exclusives on PC, with Xbox doing day one and PlayStation kind of sometimes day one with their multiplayer offerings, but then maybe a year later for their single player stuff. And so now, like, when you have this situation where there's a widely anticipated game coming to console, now it's locked. It's a third-party game locked to, a console. Now you get people coming out there and screaming about exclusives again. And you can kind of just be like, yeah, I mean, they are important. I mean, because look at the conversation it's getting just off of the fact that Switch 2 is not coming to PlayStation. Clearly, there's a demand for it.
Yeah.
And you would think...
I mean, I think some more of Microsoft's strategy probably reveal itself at the showcase, right? I mean,
Sure.
A lot of us right now are kind of like, they've given up on exclusives, they're doing this, they're doing that, but I think we'll probably see some actual real Xbox exclusives at the show, like at least incidental exclusives, as I've described them in the past, where it's like they're not coming day one to PlayStation, and maybe they'll be handpicked for multi-platform later. Like, what games recently haven't been announced for PlayStation? Avowed is one, right?
Yeah, Avowed.
I think it is South of Midnight, probably not coming to PlayStation in the near term. I think some of these studios are just not set up for multi-platform development. They don't have dev kits and all that kind of shit. So, there's all that kind of stuff to consider. But I suppose, Microsoft put out a new ad recently. I don't know if you saw this, Rand.
I did.
Directed by David Fincher.
I know.
Which
One of my favorite directors.
Oh, yeah. I was like, oh shit.
Basically, I mean, it's I like the ad, right? Because it reminded me of like the early 360 ads.
Yeah, me too.
A bit, and I mean, clearly it's like, hey, escape the rat race, right? Bring joy back to your life, because it starts off as, oh, you're like a rat, and the rat's, he's down because he's got to go to work and do all these things, and he's not happy, and then like turn on the Xbox, he turns back into human, and he's smiling and stuff. So like, I think it's an effective ad, although it is funny because I've seen people shit on the ad by saying, oh, Xbox is calling all their fans rats. And I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? It's just like, I guess you can there's always like a negative angle. I guess you could find any sort of thing. But I watched the ad and not once did I think to myself, holy shit, Xbox is calling their users rats. Like, that's not the point of the ad, and I feel like you're just kind of being over dramatic by even suggesting that's the case, because it's clearly an ad about how everybody's going through the rat race, right? About doing things they don't want to do because they have to do them, but then here is this one thing that brings them joy. So, you go from being a rat to being, a person that's having fun, and it's like Xbox is bringing that to you, whether it's on console, PC, or other handheld. So I thought it was I thought it was an effective ad. But just to see some people just being like, they're calling their users rats, dude. I'm like, oh my god, really? Did you see any of this?
In that voice?
Yeah, in that voice.
Dude, I didn't.
I
did not see this. Honestly, I didn't.
They're taking all the money from multi-platform and calling their users rats, and they canceled FanFest. That's what they truly think of their fans.
It's just silly. It's overthinking it, man. Like I felt exactly the same way you did. Though. It's like, oh wow, it's like a throwback to those like old school,
Yeah,
classic stuff. Um, so Tom
X.
Warren linked that British ad that got banned, where the
Yeah,
dude's
with
sort of flying through the air.
yep.
Like, dude, that that ad was fucking fantastic. That would not have got banned in 2025. I feel like.
Mm.
I don't think so. I think like people were just way more sensitive back then or something.
Do you remember a
Um,
lot of the crazy like video game ads back in the day? You remember those like creepy baby PS3 ads back in the day, where like the like baby
mm,
doll would be crying, and it'd be like mama, and it would like then it would show like the PS3 as like a monolith. You don't remember the like the baby PS3 ads?
yeah, that some of the ads from like I don't know, some of the kind of ads that you would often see in the print as well. Some of those ads were really crazy too. Um, you'd see stuff like uh, you know, stuff that was like maybe a bit sexist and stuff like that, by modern standards. And like it was just all accepted back then. I don't know. But I feel like companies went like they kind of went hard to try and, you know, I suppose get attention back then. Whereas like these days, they're kind of, I don't know. Maybe it's unfair to say. It feels like they don't go as hard as they used to, maybe. But
In
I
general,
don't
like
know.
for ads for what for
Just in general, like ads don't seem to be as high budget as they used to be, maybe.
mm,
Especially like in the gaming sphere. Like they do these ad campaigns and they focus on billboards and shit like that, but like this David Fincher thing was like seriously a throwback, I thought.
sure, absolutely. And I mean, to get David Fincher, I'm sure he's not cheap.
No,
That's one of the
definitely not.
premier directors out there, and I thought I thought it was one of the better Xbox ads in quite a while, and I thought it got his message across pretty plainly, you know, for what they were trying
Yeah,
to go at. I just think, of course, people want to,
I
you know,
agree.
they want to messy the water and console war or be assholes and being like, dude, they just called you a rat, dude. You know, it's like, what? Come on, like I don't know. But the thing is, I don't really see a lot of ads anymore, Jez. One, because I got YouTube Premium, so I don't get YouTube ads. So I pay monthly for that. Best subscription there is.
Mm.
Even on all the streaming services I use, I always pick the tier that doesn't have ads. I don't watch like broadcast television, so
Yeah, maybe there's just the audience isn't watching ads. Maybe that's the thing.
I have ad blocker for Twitter, so I don't get any of the ads on there. So it's just like I don't really see any of that stuff. So I
Maybe the
think
new ads are movies like Minecraft and shit.
no, I mean you'll still get ads, and a lot of the streaming services have a low tier where you'll get ads before shows you watch or whatever. And
I
I
guess.
think I remember I told you I watched the Netflix premiere of Raw on January 6th. And then like there was ads throughout the whole thing, and I'm like, I'm not doing this again. I can't handle this. I can't handle, which was why you should use a VPN so you can watch it overseas. Log into the international version of Netflix and get Netflix with Raw without any ads. But yeah, I don't watch any of that stuff. Like, so I don't really get inundated with ads. So because I always pay for the tier that doesn't have them. But I saw the Xbox
Yeah,
One
ads.
because obviously it was posted on Twitter by Xbox, and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. I like David Fincher. But of course,
You can
people.
also block ads with Surfshark VPN.
There you go. We have Nathan who says, I know that there are the announced Gears of War animated and live action projects. Speaking for the animated side, what kind of animation style do y'all think would be suggested for Gears? Hmm.
Ooh.
You mentioned animated style and just made me remember that Devil May Cry anime is out on Netflix. and that
Yeah, how are people reacting to that?
well, they just renewed it for season 2, so it must be doing well enough numbers wise for them to renew it. But of course, there are people that like it, and then there are people that really don't. So I don't. I mean, I am a fan of Devil May Cry, and maybe I'll watch the anime at some point. But I don't. I'm not like super lore person. You know, I know it's Dante and his brother Virgil, and their dad Sparta and stuff. So I sort of know the basics of it. But I don't know. I think they've changed some stuff in the show, and people aren't happy with. So there are that side of the audience that is like, you change, you know, kind of like how I am with Wheel Time. We're like, you fucking can't change the shit, you know.
Mm.
But I did see, because Gene Park posted this, that both a lot more people are playing the Devil May Cry games on Steam. Like there's a big upsurge in players playing Devil May Cry 5 and the Devil May Cry HD collection on Steam. So clearly there are people discovering it through the anime, just like how, you know, the Cyberpunk stuff, and then wanting to search out the games. So
See, Sean LeBrie in chat says Devil May Cry on Netflix is fantastic. So maybe I should, give it a watch, I suppose.
yeah.
I'm kind of like, the problem is that I suppose in a way, like the bar has been set so fucking high, dude. Like Cyberpunk Edgerunners is not
Right.
just like one of the best
Mm-hmm.
adaptations ever. It's one of my favorite animes ever.
Yeah.
It is that fucking good. And it's like, can you reach up to Cyberpunk Edgerunner's level with like a Netflix cartoon kind of show? I haven't watched that much of Castlevania. I did enjoy what I'd watched, but it's like Konami must be sitting there thinking like, oh man, we had like a pretty big hit with Castlevania Netflix show and no game really to pair it with. Like, couldn't they have like have re-released some of the classic ones or something? Like, I suppose they did re-release some
there
of
have
them,
been
but
re-releases of
it
some
was
of that
like,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, but like it was
And the
quite low
Castlevania
key, I
show
kind of
was
think.
was good too. I watched it. I watched the Castlevania show. But yeah.
Yeah.
And they even have the spin-off, like, well, not spin-off, but Castlevania Nocturne. So, but you're right. Where's the game? You know? But as far as animation style, look, I'm not an anime guy, so I couldn't tell you styles. I don't know. Jez is more the anime guy. What animation styles should go for Gears?
Studio Ghibli.
Studio Ghibli, so just AI that shit. Just use AI to
Just
make.
AI that shit, baby. AI that shit. Nah, honestly don't know. For Netflix show, I kind of want to see like a dark Western style, like the Batman animated TV show. I don't know if they should make it an anime, personally, but um, I don't know, man. Maybe they should.
That's that. Even though I'm not an anime guy, that's the one I'm looking forward to, because because Netflix movies tend to kind of be shit most of the time, but their TV shows can usually be really good. I've never really seen a Netflix movie that was amazing, but I've seen plenty of Netflix shows that were amazing. So that's me kind of saying I don't really have a lot of hope for the Gears of War Netflix movie to be good, because I don't really think Netflix is good at making movies. But I think they've proven that they're pretty good at making TV shows and anime, and that's where you could probably get, like a deeper storyline, because you have to do like 10 episodes where, in a Gears of War movie, what are you following? Are you following the events of the first movie or the first game? So is it
Yeah, I guess
Marcus,
so.
or are we gonna do paired up with E-Day? I mean, we haven't even got announcements that they've done casting, let alone shooting the film. So I don't even know if it's actually still happening. You would imagine they would want to, because they're seeing, all these other projects are seeing success driving stuff to the games. So you would imagine they'd still want to do it, but we haven't heard anything about casting or when they're supposed to start shooting.
No,
So
I have no idea.
I don't know when that's
Well,
all gonna come together, but yeah. We got cold coffee. Considering the time Compulsion took to make South to Midnight and the eventual reviews, do you think it was a good decision to purchase them?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I've been wondering what your opinion is on this, actually, because you were that anti-compulsion guy, right?
Yes, that is true. I didn't understand why they bought him back in 2018. And, I talked in depth about South of Midnight last week. So if anybody didn't catch my thoughts on it, go check out last week's episode. And, there are definitely things the game does incredibly well. And there are some things that not so much, or kind of just run of the mill, that maybe drags down the experience a bit. It is clearly the best game Compulsion's ever made. I mean, that's without a shadow of a doubt. And I feel like they're on the verge of taking that next step. And I think if they were given another opportunity, whether that's through a sequel to South of Midnight or a new IP, that you could see the improvement so much so that I think like they're right there, and like another project would help them, get past that barrier and like be like, all right, like this is where we're at. But obviously Microsoft is a business, Xbox is a business, and they have margins they have to hit, and they have profit things they got to nail. And sometimes, and I think I've always said this, like the Xbox of 2018 that bought these studios isn't the same Xbox of 2025 that purchased Bethesda and ABK. So, we saw them shut down Tango Gameworks with Hurt, which really hurt, because they just put out a masterpiece, in my opinion, with Hi-Fi Rush, and that did not go over well with the Xbox fan base, and definitely not with the Xbox 2 universe. Because it's like, well, wait a minute, like, how could you shut down the studio that just put out this masterpiece? And I thought Game Pass was supposed to help with that, where it would buffer from not having the sales that you would want, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, we talked that whole thing to death. And I think there are some people worried about Compulsion, just like they were worried with Ninja Theory, because those games came out and it didn't really seem like they struck a chord with the general gaming audience. And I know people will use the Steam concurrent user data to be like, paint a narrative about, oh, look how well this game is doing, or at least in South of Midnight's case, look how bad this game is doing. Even though I think the vast majority of people playing it on PC are playing it on the Xbox app on the Windows Store. It does make you kind of think, okay, they bought them in 2018, and it's 2025, and they just put out their first game for under Xbox, and it doesn't look like it's going to be a big hit.
Yeah.
So what's next? What's the next step? What's the next plan? And Xbox and all these companies, they're in a charity, right? They're not going to keep on being like, well, we're going to make sure everybody's got a job and these studios stay solvent and up and running just because it's the right thing to do. They're going to look at it and being like, well, do they add anything to the portfolio? Is it a cost we can cut and save money here or there? Because, there's a whole tariff situation. What's going to go on with that? Are they going to have to raise prices of the Xbox consoles and all these other factors they got to talk about? And it's like, oh, the fiscal year's ending in 3 months, and they're going to all have new budgets, and they're going to be like, well, Compulsion did just put out a new game. What's their next idea? Are we gonna greenlight their next game or whatever? Mm-hmm. I would like to see them put out another title, because I feel like they're on to something, but I mean, they've only made 3 games, and Contrast was wildly different to We Happy Few, which is wildly different than South of Midnight. So I feel like they're almost there. And I think Xbox will give them that opportunity. But I think they'll have to be more cognizant of the time, right? I don't think it's one of those things where you can be like, yeah, it takes 6 years to make your next game. And I know they didn't start working on South of Midnight in 2018, but that's how people view it. Like they bought them in 2018 and
What?
it's 2025, and that's 7 years, right? And I obviously COVID and all that stuff, but nobody wants to hear about COVID in 2025 about what it did to the industry in
Yeah.
the early generation. So it's
Let me
it's
ask
the
you
thing.
this.
It's like if you still if you're still valuable enough to your parent company, they'll keep you around. You
But let me
know,
ask you this, right? If I put you in charge of Compulsion, I was like, what aspect of their design needs the most help after playing South of Midnight? What kind of expertise would you hire into the team?
well, I think it's clearly the actual moment to moment gameplay, especially the combat's what needed a lot of work, in my opinion. But I guess you could say like if I was Xbox and I was like, okay, maybe you try to turn Compulsion into an awards bait studio to make something
Awards
that's
bait.
yeah, like to create something that is gonna like kind of like how Pentiment was, which was, I think is you know is like yeah, it was Josh Schroyer's idea, but it was like clearly like this is an indie darling and it's going to win awards and may not make its money back, but it
What's the
could.
point of winning awards if there's no money in it?
I don't know. I mean, you there are plenty of studios, not necessarily gaming studios, but movie studios that will fund, awards bait stuff. So their names are out there for Oscar season and stuff. Even though the movie may not make the most money, but it's funded by your Lord of the Rings or your Avengers or whatever. Like the bigger project that comes along and pays for the other stuff, right? Just like me, you look at it in the gaming industries, like you have Xbox has Call of Duty and Fallout and all these huge IPs that make a ton of money, and it's like surely they could. It's like, all right, well, we'll see if we can build up something else, using the money and the profits from these other big sort of things. But I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know. You know, I think I think Xbox will give them another opportunity. I don't know. I don't know if they're happy with what's going on with South of Midnight right now. I mean, we did hear with Avowed, like kind of right away, that Avowed was happy with the sales of the game, and Obsidian does have another game coming out this year, and they have other projects they're working on. So Xbox, I think, values Obsidian because I think they can work on a lot of different things at once. Where Compulsion is just this team working on this game, and now they shipped, and I think they probably have to be a little bit faster next time. Because I don't think you can sit here and be like, all right, South of Midnight's next game's releasing in 2032, because like that time frame probably doesn't work. I mean, hell, I even look at Double Fine and I'm like, Psychonauts 2 shipped in 2021 and it's 2025. I'm not sure like Xbox signed up to buy these smaller studios so they could take as long as like AAA games take to make, I think it was like, hey, we'll get some of these smaller studios and maybe turn around a game in 2 to 3 years. But it definitely seems like these games are taking a lot longer than they anticipated, which obviously, increases the budget on that stuff. So we'll see. But I think Compulsion stays around, and I think they get another chance at doing something.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
think
there are aspects of that game that is just so stylish and so cool to look at, but I think the moment to moment stuff is, and also I hear a lot of people complain about combat too, so that's potentially solvable with the right couple of hires, maybe. So they've got something. The art in that game was fantastic.
yeah. But it does. I do feel like there isn't a lot of interest in South of Midnight, just like there really wasn't for
Yeah.
Hellblade 2. And I think that's something you do have to solve for the next time, because you could create a really, really great game next time, but if nobody really knows about it or cares about it, does it even matter? And I mean, we've had that discussion about Hellblade, right? Like, do you go to Hellblade 3 when it looked like there really isn't a lot of interest in Hellblade in general? And I think you'd have to say the same thing about South of Midnight. It's like, all right, well, what are we doing next? Could Project Mara, for Hellblade, like a horror based thing? Maybe that has more broader appeal in this day and age, rather than Hellblade. Because some people might feel like a sequel. I didn't really like the first one, so I don't really care about the second one. Or other people might like, well, I'm not going to go back to the first one to understand the second one, so I'm not interested. But something that's maybe just like a horror focused. That one seems that people, there's a horror resurgence. So that could be something that interests a lot of
Could
people.
they tackle an existing IP?
Potentially. I don't know. South of Midnight, I mean, you could do a sequel with Hazel as a more experienced Weaver going up against like tougher enemies and maybe like a different part of the world where you go under, or you maybe stick to the South and you delve more into like Southern Gothic folktale and stuff, and you build out you build out a bigger game out of it, or maybe you just tackle something new. I don't know. I think there's a difference between like Ninja Theory working on a sequel to an IP, and then here's South of Midnight or Compulsion working on a new IP, and they both sort of seem like there wasn't a lot of interest in either. So I don't know. Does that speak to Xbox's marketing for these titles? I don't know.
Hard to say, man. Maybe they need to make more Guna games, bro.
Yeah. I mean, the question was, do you think it was a good decision to purchase them? And I mean, only people at Xbox can answer that question. And if they stick around and they make another game, then I guess the answer to that question would be yes. I mean, because look how quickly PlayStation, shut down the studio that made Concord. If that was, I would imagine we would find out soon if like Compulsion was like set for the chopping block, because with the new fiscal year coming in, they'd probably be like, oh yeah, we're not giving you any budget, we're getting rid of you. So, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think
someone in chat said there are rumors of fresh layoffs in May. So
fresh layoffs?
Microsoft layoffs rather.
In May?
So,
do they normally do layoffs in May? I thought they normally do layoffs in January.
They have done layoffs in May before, and layoffs over the summer too. So,
all right, well,
I mean, there's a potentiality there.
Sure, I guess it's possible people get laid off all the time. So yeah, we'll see. Sir Riffslots says maybe it's GPS proximity to product will trigger ads. Not only are they listening, but watching where you're at, or we're hooked up to the Matrix. Yeah, there's always the chance we're hooked up to the Matrix. That's true. Jay Foley says, hey guys, seen on Twitter that the reason Xbox is doing the direct digital with no audience is because of the fear of what fans will do when Gears is announced for PlayStation. That can't be true, right? So
I mean,
well, let's talk about the showcase now, because this dovetails right into that. So Xbox announced the game showcase on what was that, Tuesday? It was Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
The Xbox Game Showcase, which is coming at you on June 8th, as well as the Outer Worlds 2 Direct, which immediately follows the thing. So here's the Xbox Newswire blog, where they say, Sunday, June 8th, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific, so that's 12 Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, following the footsteps of the 2023 Starfield Direct and the 2024 Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Direct. This year, we will again have a double feature with the Xbox Game Showcase, immediately followed by the Outer Worlds 2 Direct. It all begins with our annual Xbox Game Showcase, bringing you a look at upcoming titles from across our first-party studios, in addition to incredible new titles from our third-party partners across the globe. This year, the show will be digital only. Our live stream will bring you everything you'll need to know about what's next for Xbox, no matter where in the world you're watching. And immediately following the showcase, the Outer Worlds 2 Direct will bring you inside the walls of Obsidian Entertainment, revealing new gameplay, details, and developer insights straight from the people making the sequel to the award-winning first-person sci-fi RPG. And they talk about the language you can watch it in. The double feature broadcast also kicks off a week work coverage here on Xbox Wire. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so showcase is announced, although definitely announced earlier than normal, but not in this article. But it was in another one. They also mentioned how there is no live person event because normally, at least the last 3 years, they've been running an Xbox Fan Fest where people can go to LA if they get tickets and then watch it in person at like a screening. And this year they've gotten rid of it. And you know, they've been doing Fans Fest since 2015. I went to the one in 2016. They obviously couldn't do them in 2020 or 2021, but it came back in 2022. And so they sort of even mentioned how they are planning on doing like a 10-year anniversary for FanFest. But
yeah,
it kind of does feel like this is an end of an era for FanFest. So we'll talk about them separately. Let's talk about the FanFest stuff first, because that's what the question delves into, and then we'll talk about the showcase stuff. So, Jay Foley says, "Hey guys, seen on Twitter that the reason Xbox is doing the digital direct with no audience is because the fear of what fans will do when Gears is announced for PlayStation. That can't be right." And I've seen this sentiment shared across social media quite a bit about, hey, Xbox isn't doing a fan fest because they don't care about their fans anymore, because they have new audiences that are going to discover their games across Switch and PlayStation, or that when you're sitting in the audience and Gears or Halo or something that shows up that is announced for PlayStation, that everybody in the audience would boo, and they don't want that to happen, so that's why they canceled it. Now, I particularly don't subscribe to that theory, because I know that FanFest has been on the cutting room. It's been on the cutting room, or what's the right way to say this?
Chopping block.
It's been on the chopping block for a couple years now.
Yeah.
Last year was kind of a last minute thing, so there was a very good chance it wasn't happening last year. Now, I guess you can also say, well, also last year was the multi-platform stuff, but FanFest has kind of been a thing that was kind of been holding on through a tiny thread, and if that thread finally snapped this year, I don't really think it has anything to do with people's reactions, because I think the fans that were going to go to this weren't going to be the ones that would boo Gears coming to PlayStation, and it's not a live event anyways. Like, it's a digital show, so like, it's not like it was where Phil Spencer's on stage with everybody in the audience and you would hear people boo. Like, it's just, they're just streaming it to you, so even if people booed in the audience, like, people watching wouldn't know, because that's not being broadcasted.
Yeah.
And I don't really think the ones who would go to the showcase anyways, like are going to be the ones who would like boo if Gears shows up and it says PlayStation on there, because I sort of feel like everybody expects that to happen anyways. So I don't really think I think that's just people just like grasping at straws and trying to turn it into something it's not, trying to turn it into like console war stuff. But I don't know. What do you think, Jez? I mean,
no, I completely agree. I mean, it's like you said, you wouldn't have heard anyone booing anyway, right? And I know that last year, I was at Xbox last year. People were obviously skeptical about the strategy, but nobody was like booing or going crazy or doing anything like that. So, yeah, and Gamescom too. I don't think there was any, like, because obviously Gamescom is a big in-person event, and they even did the Indiana Jones shit there. Indiana Jones coming to PlayStation, and I don't think that shit scans personally. But I will say this: I think you are right that it reflects it's the end of an era, a sign of the times. Those big moments, like, oh god, it's Keanu Reeves, huge audience, all this shit. huge audience, like with like hundreds of people packed into a little theater. I don't know if we see that again, you know. And I honestly, I was shocked that BlizzCon's coming back. I think what they're gonna do, you know, because development timelines are much longer these days and stuff like that. I think probably what they'll do is they'll think of it more like they'll think of it more like we'll do it when we've got a bunch of major things to announce all at once, kind of thing, right? That's kind of my perception, is that they go down that route, but could be wrong. Um, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Um,
Because
I
I
mean,
think that's why BlizzCon didn't happen for a while. It was because they were waiting to see, they were waiting to have a bunch of announcements that would make the show worth having, kind of. Um, but yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's one of those things also that like if you wanted to save some money, you could cut it, even though it probably wasn't that big of an expense. And I always kind of just question the idea of like, you know, is it really worth running this thing for just like a watch along? You know, when you can
yeah,
just get like 400 people in there. It's like it didn't really. It wasn't like it was in the past where you get all these people into like a like a showroom floor or a stadium or whatever, and like their reactions help make the show what it is because people are excited.
yeah,
It's just like any other show now, which kind of sucks because I sort of do miss the live aspect of when PlayStation was live and Xbox was live. I miss the old E3 format of like, okay, Monday and Tuesdays or Sundays and Monday, it's just like you're watching the Xbox show, then there's the Ubisoft show, then there's the EA show, then there's this show, and then Monday's like the PlayStation show and the 2K show, and right where it was just like it was great. You just would watch all these conferences and just be like, "Oh man, look at all the cool stuff coming." But, you know, because of what happened, everybody does their own things and everybody does their own things at different times, and it's sort of kind of lost its luster. And I guess maybe you could
I
say
think
Xbox was the one kind of keeping it together, but even still, like while they would have fans in there for a watch along, like people watching at home wouldn't know anything about it because they're just watching the stream of the
yeah.
presentation. So everything's sort of kind of turned into the Nintendo Direct because these showcases are really just one trailer right after another, boom, 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 which is great. But there's like,
Yeah, everyone else already stopped doing it, and there's another like little aspect of this that I thought was you know, potentially interesting, at least conspiratorially. The fact that the press event they are doing a press event. It's going to be sort of like for interviews and BCDs and stuff like that. It's right next door to Summer Game Fest this time, so it's
yeah.
kind of like they've kind of
I
they
heard
have
there's
sort of
I
figured
heard there was a
out.
lot of complaints last year about them being like separated by a good distance because there would be like appointments for somebody to do something at Summer Games Fest, but then also whoever at Xbox, and it was quite a distance. So they probably heard all
Yeah,
that stuff, and it was like, all right, we'll make them close by.
I think that's part of it, but I also think like Microsoft wants to gradually work towards having something like E3 come back, you know, help build up, um, gradually build up and develop Summer Game Fest into something that can sort of replace that shit, right? But we'll see.
Yeah. Um. But for the showcase itself, Jez,
Mm.
I mean, I mentioned it before at the beginning of the show. I've heard from 4 people now that Xbox wants to go big, or they got all these reveals and all this, new stuff they want to show, and which makes sense to me because they are sitting on a lot of things and a lot of things they could potentially show. What are the things that for you they have to show in this? Like without a shadow of a doubt, like has to be there, no questions asked. And if it's not, that's going to be a problem.
I mean, it's a bit of a weird one, I suppose, because you're still gonna have that with the core fans. You're still gonna have that cloud of skepticism over everything they announce.
Sure.
It's like, well, you're doing this multi-platform stuff, and nobody knows if it's actually gonna permanently damage the platform for certain, right? So, I mean, I don't think anything they could show is gonna cut through that negative cloud that they've created for themselves. Um, Personally speaking, like the people who watch these kind of shows, I know Microsoft's thought process is, well, most of the people who play on our platform don't watch this show, but this show is supposed to be for the hardcore fans, and everything they announce is gonna be okay. That looks great, but when's it coming to PlayStation? And they've created that meme for themselves, right? But if we put that to one side for a moment, and I think it's totally valid to put that to one side, um, because it's inevitable. There's nothing we can do about it. So, if that is something that really affects your enjoyment of the platform, you just need to move on now because that absolutely will not change course, I don't think. They've just been like, well, we'll sacrifice those fans in order to make money. You know, that's that's their thought process, and we got to live with it. So putting that to one side, I think there's a lot of games that have sort of disappeared out of the ether, contraband and stuff. But I think at this point nobody really cares about them anymore. So um, I don't know if they need to show anything particular like that. I suppose what I would like to see from them is just some faith in the fans that they have, some kind of platform announcement or something on those lines where it's like a tease for the next Xbox or something like that, Maybe it's too early, but they've teased stuff fairly ahead of time in the past, you know, to delight their fans and stuff like that. I'd like to see something like that. But is it something they need to do? I don't know. I think we're kind of beyond things they need to do at this point. I know every year, like this year, Xbox needs to do this or they're doomed. I think Xbox always delivers a decent show at E3, Summer Showcase, whatever you want to call it these days. Um, I don't think there's any doubt that they're gonna have a good show. I suppose like what the issue is like, um, do we get a fig leaf?
A fig leaf.
Will fans of the platform.
You mean like an olive branch? What a fig
An
leaf?
olive
What is it?
branch, yeah,
A
fig
fig
leaf.
leaf
What
to
the
what? Put
fuck's a
over their
fig leaf for?
put over their private parts or something? Like it's Adam and
Yeah,
Eve from the garden?
yeah, what is fig leaf? When do you
I
say
don't know.
fig leaf?
Why'd you say fig leaf?
I don't fucking know.
I mean, pretty odd, dude. Pretty odd.
You're pretty odd.
I mean, I'm not the one who
Okay.
said fig leaf.
I don't know why I was thinking fig leaf, dude. But point being, I'd like to see some kind of olive branch
Mm.
for the core fans, but
What would you
will
want
we
it to
get
be?
that? I honestly don't know. Something platform related, something that fans have been asking for. I don't know anything. Permanent price drop. That's
Yeah,
not going to
a
happen.
price drop. Yeah, okay. Now you're
Yeah,
smoking the good old hopium right there. If anything,
yeah,
it'd
I
be a
don't
price
know.
raise. There's like
Yeah, probably.
PlayStation just raised PlayStation Plus in 15 countries,
Mm.
Latin American countries. Like gearing up to raise it in other places. Is Xbox going to gear up to raise it in, Game Pass and stuff? But I hear what you're
Yeah,
saying about
maybe.
like, do they call this the Xbox Game Showcase, and it's kind of almost like they don't reveal hardware stuff. And even when
Yeah, I
you
know. I know.
or platform stuff, I know some people like,
Just
is
tease
this
it,
where they're
man. Give
gonna
me a
is this where they're gonna
tease.
reveal Project Kennen and being like, look at this handheld we got and check it out? Is that
Yeah, I
where?
mean, one of the things I heard originally was Kenan was slated for May a long time ago, but obviously that's fucked up now with tariffs and shit like that. And now I've heard it's coming later in the year. I had a great conversation with Carrie Golom on XB2 +1 last week about what Kenan could look like, from a a sort of architectural standpoint, from price standpoint, all that kind of stuff. And he thinks it's going to be like it's either going to be Z1 Extreme based, so no Z2 shenanigans this time around. Or maybe it'll be cheaper and it'll be Z2 Go based or whatever that chip's called, the cheaper one that's slightly more powerful. Slightly less powerful, sorry, but slightly more energy efficient, I think it is, something like that. Um, but anyways, it'll be interesting to see like how that plays out from a specs perspective. But like announcements perspective, maybe it's there that you announce it. I mean, I think that would take the edge off the fears that Xbox is gonna ditch hardware for one thing. I
Mm.
also think like just having some hardware teas for next gen. If you're going to talk about Canon, you've got to talk about next gen hardware to offset those fears that they're going OEM based for future hardware. You know, I think people at least want to see that there's still Xboxes coming, not just OEM Xboxes. So,
Yeah,
but I don't know, man.
they're not
I,
going to
I just want
announce.
some kind of acknowledgement of the brand stress that they've put out there, because I feel like the Xbox community hasn't had their faith rewarded. Um, and I think there are people at Xbox who care more about the soul of Xbox than, the corporate Microsoft does. And they're probably as frustrated as the rest of us are, for sure. But it's their bed they made, and they have the power to mitigate some of that shit. It's just whether they want to or they're able to, I guess.
Yeah, I was thinking more of. I mean, it would be cool to get those sort of announcements about hardware, but I don't think. I certainly don't think it's this year. I could
Yeah,
see
I'm just
Cat.
saying what I would like to see,
I
because
know.
I'm kind of like, I've heard similar to you, right? I asked someone I know at Microsoft, because obviously if we're gonna go to this media event, I need to budget for that shit. And I asked the source of Microsoft, I was like, look, is it gonna be worth my while? They know how, strapped for cash Windows Central is. Is it gonna be worth my while to dig into the budget and get someone out to this show? And they were very definitively just yes. Now I don't know what that means, but I know they wouldn't. I know this person wouldn't sort of like tell me to budget for something that wasn't worth budgeting for. You know what I mean? So my hope is that there's going to be some cool shit at that show. Um, for Xbox and PC from Microsoft. So maybe like Gears stuff, but also like hints at future stuff that we don't know about. You know, there's a certain project that I'm particularly excited about that I want to hear more about
Is
that I
that is
can't really
that the
talk
one?
about.
Is that the one that your Blade Runner tweet?
Yeah, I think it might be too early for that one right now, but definitely next year we'll see it. I
So
would
for
have
those
thought.
that
If
don't
not,
know, Jez tweeted an iconic scene from Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner, where the character says, "What you wouldn't? What's the
I've
line,
seen
Jez?
things you people wouldn't
I've
believe,
seen
something
things
like that.
you people wouldn't believe." And so
Yeah,
you're willing to say that this is a game that you're aware of, an unannounced game,
yeah. It's an unrevealed, unannounced
unrevealed,
game
unannounced game that
that I saw some footage of
you saw
recently,
footage of.
like the Fable, like the Fable footage, like pre pre alpha kind of gameplay footage, and I was
Yeah,
just like, this is a dream. This is my dream right here.
World of
So,
Warcraft third person melee. World of Warcraft Souls like by From
oh man,
Software.
oh dude, that'd
Could
be
you
so
imagine?
fucking sick. Yeah, you play as like, I don't know, Ogrim Doomhammer or something. Oh, that'd be
You
sick.
play as the Lich King.
Um, oh my God, play as a Lich King. That'd be really, really sick. I don't know. But nah. But my point is that there's shit cooking that is incredible,
Yeah,
and maybe we see some of that at the show, teasers or hints. I want to see State of Decay 3 revealed in full.
I figured that was the
Um,
game that you probably want to see the most of because
yeah, definitely.
And I think
That's
you've
like
even
of the games that are announced and that we know about. State of Decay 3 is like probably the top tier for me.
Mhm.
The Beer Baron says what World of Warcraft expansions. We already know all the World of Warcraft expansions that are coming up, so that wouldn't be a particular shock to me.
Mhm.
Um,
I love how people immediately go to the World of Warcraft expansions.
yeah,
Like Jez
I will say
would.
this: it's not World of Warcraft related at all.
Yes, let's thank God for that, right? Not World of Warcraft related whatsoever. Hallelujah.
Yeah,
I mean, for me,
I wish it was though.
um, I would love to see a new Halo or whatever they're, because like Halo's sort of been absent from any of these Xbox game showcases
They are very quiet, aren't they?
since when was the last time Halo was at one of these things? I think it was 2020. Because I think it'd be 2021 because the game came out later that year. So it skipped 2023, 2022, 2023, and 2024. I mean, now granted, okay, you probably think like, well, they probably need some more time or whatever, and Xbox has clearly Xbox is moving away from announcing stuff too early, and it really seems like a lot of the industry is moving away from announcing things that are years out at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they did recently change their name to Halo Studios last year. You know, there are rumors about, Halo 1 remake, and I've mentioned before, like, I'm not really interested in playing a Halo 1 remake. I kind of want I don't know, the sequel to Halo Infinite or whatever. I just would like to see Halo back there again with something. I think it's important. I think like Halo's kind of been. It used to be like the king, It used to be the top rooster in the hen house, right? It used to be the cock of the walk. And I feel like ever since they got Bethesda and ABK, like the importance around Halo is dramatically lessened to where now it's just another fish swimming in a bigger pond.
Now it's just the cock.
Yeah. So it sort of feels like, all right, well, Halo's Halo, but I would love to see something from it. If it's the Halo 1 remake and it looks all pretty and stuff, I'm sure I'll be like, oh, that looks really cool, but I don't know if I'm really going to play it. But I feel like they got to show something at this point, or at least be like, hey, this is our next project. Whether it's coming out next year or 2 years from now, I don't know, but I feel like Halo's got to be there. Everwild is another game that has to be there, right? I mean, it's been even longer. At least Halo showed up in 2020 and 2021. Everwild hasn't shown up since 2020. And, they used it for the Christmas card. And I sort of feel like, all right, well, if this is, like, it's been long enough now to get, like, a trailer or something for Everwild. So I feel like that has to be there. I also feel like Contraband has to be there. Because that's another thing from 2021. It's been 4 years since we've seen, and we didn't even see the game. It was just like a CGI thing of oh, we're moving around the garage and then here's the name of the game. We don't even know what it looks like. We don't even know what type of game it is. I would be, if it's not there this year, I'd be writing emails to Microsoft being like, "Hey, is this game canceled? Because what the fuck?" You know what I mean?
Shall I do that? Shall I email them again?
I mean, seriously, if it's not there at this year's showcase, I'd be like, "Where is it?" At that point, it's how many years in a row? So I feel like that's got to show up. I want
JB1521 says Contraband devs are hiring, so I guess it lives. I mean, the last I heard is that it lives. That was like a few months ago, so I could check in and find out what's happening there.
Yeah. I mean, I really want to see more of Gears E-Day, which I think we will. I think there'll be another Gears E-Day trailer. The trailer they showed last year was fantastic. So I definitely want to see more of the game, and I want to see, like, gameplay, right? Take Perfect Dark. I mean, I take a more Perfect Dark. I mean, what they showed last year looked really cool, but I don't know. I'm kind of like, all right, like show me what you got, Perfect Dark. Give me a year on it, which they probably won't because I don't really think Perfect Dark's next year. But I could be completely wrong, and maybe it is. I'm not really expecting Fable this year.
You're not?
No, I mean, I think with the delay and the fact that they released new footage alongside the delay that both me and you had seen, I feel like
Is that something they say for the Game Awards then, since it'll be nearer the time?
I mean, they could save it for the Game Awards, or they could just save it for their own Dev Direct. But then there's a part of me that thinks maybe the delay for Fable is like a full year delay, and like because there's the idea of like, okay, it was supposed to be this fall, but they're laying it so maybe it's March or May. But then there's like a part in my head that's just like, well, what if it's a full year delay, like Halo was, where Halo was supposed to be November 2020 and then ended up being like November 2021. And then the campaign was like December 2021. What if it's like the same thing with Fable where it's like they delayed it in February, which was far out, it's like, man, you didn't have to delay it at that point, but they did. And it's like, okay, it's November of 2026 or 2025 or, October of 2026. So there's a part of me. I mean, look, I don't know anything about the show other than what like people have hyped up the show to me, which, very well, like it could be an amazing show because I think the last two shows have been absolutely stellar, especially last year's.
Yeah.
But I haven't really heard anything game specific yet. So I mean, those usually come like later on when they start doing like rehearsals and stuff and start doing rundowns where people will be like, oh, this or that or in the third, right?
Mm.
But yeah, like there's a part of me that's like, I'm not really expecting Fable because they did show off new footage and maybe they just hold on to it until sometime next year. I think Spyro 4 does show up. And obviously I probably make a video closer to the showcase to talk about
Predictions.
like predictions of what I think will be there. But just off the top of my head, like Ninja Gaiden 4, I think obviously will be there because it's scheduled for this fall. I mean, Xbox has a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not sure if Bethesda will be there with anything, really. I mean, I guess it's possible they show up with like Indiana Jones DLC because I think Bethesda's tapped until Blade comes out. Because you look at the games they've released and outside of the game that the ESO devs are working on, like all their games have been shipped and they're all like kind of like, all right, we're on to our next game, and obviously game dev takes a while. I guess it's certainly possible, Jez. I was thinking like, what if we get Elder Scrolls 6? A re-tease? Because I remember they showed it off for the first time in 2018. It was just the title. It's been 7 years since then. And
it's another years.
Is it too far? I guess the question is it time where like you start teasing Elder Scrolls 6 to come out in maybe 2 years, 2027? Or is that game still even further out? I don't know. So I'm even trying to think
What
of
about
like,
Starfield expansion?
I mean, yeah, sure. That's a good guess for DLC. Starfield. I mean, a game was going to be there is probably Sea of Thieves because it's always there with something. That's probably maybe where they would use the Nintendo logo on stuff. But I need to like really sit down and mark the games that we think will be there. We know because I mean they need to start fleshing out what their roadmap is, or at least what to expect for 2026 at this June showcase, right? Because we already know what's coming the rest of the year. Like we know that Outer Worlds 2 and Ninja Gaiden 4 and the new Call of Duty are coming out in the fall. Is there going to be a Gears collection reveal of some kind at this show and a release sometime soon, like August or something? Like we know that Tony Hawk is coming in July, but you could easily be like, hey, here's Gears collection or a Gears 1 Ultimate Edition. Because I've heard interesting things about Gears rumors not being true or being kind of weird.
Which Gears rumors?
I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. Don't know.
You know,
Don't know. It wasn't clarified about which Gears rumors, other than just
someone told you some of the Gears rumors were not true,
no, just that it was basically like,
not as accurate as
yeah, sort of something
people
along
said.
that. Like, but I don't know what that means, and I don't
Could
know.
Special Nick have been
I don't
wrong?
know. I don't know. I have no idea. And it's something we just
I
have
just
to
want
wait
to
and
say, for
see.
the record, I never said there was a Gears collection, ever. For the record, I never said there was a
Yeah,
Gears
and that's
collection.
why
Okay?
that's probably why you're gonna lose to Special Nick.
Yeah,
Hey, but I mean,
maybe.
when you got to wait 3 or 4 years in there, you can make. I said this 4 years ago. I'm right finally. You know. I mean, you might as well say that now. Guess
Man.
what? Banjo in development, and then when it comes out 5 years from now, you can be like, "See, told you."
Told you.
Go back in episode
That's funny.
359 where you said something. But yeah, so there's the Outer Worlds 2, which, can I say something about this? Like,
Sure.
like I'm asking you, like I wasn't gonna say something about it, considering it's our podcast, but
Wait, say what?
I wanted to say something about Outer Worlds 2 Direct,
Oh, okay.
because I find it extreme. I find it odd, and I don't know if I'm the only one that feels this way, but like, when I look at the previous directs, and you got Starfield and you got Black Ops 6, Starfield, it was the first time we've seen like footage of the game, right? When they well, outside of like whenever they showed it that first time, but they didn't really. It was like footage, but it was like the first in-depth thing of seeing like something very continuous, and like, this is the loop, but it was a deep dive into what the game was. And then the next year we got Black Ops 6, which was the first time we sort of seen any look at the systems and the campaign and all that stuff. Outer Worlds 2, to me, seems like it's in a weird position, because I think Xbox wants to keep the showcase going, because I think they like this idea of, here's our showcase, and then here's like a deep dive look at a game launching that fall, right? But to me, it's odd, and I say it's odd not because of like, oh, Starfield comparison to Outer Worlds 2, but it's odd because we just sort of got a deep dive into Outer Worlds 2 the same day it was announced for the Direct, because IGN has it for IGN First this month. So IGN's doing a whole bunch of articles and videos for Outer Worlds 2 the entirety of April. And I almost sort of think that the showcase Direct was supposed to be set for Fable or maybe even Gears. And both those games, Fable got delayed, and then Gears, who knows if Gears E-Day was ever set for this year. I mean, according to Tom Warren, I think they were targeting this year, but obviously it doesn't look like it's coming. And it was like, okay, well, we want to keep on doing these showcase directs, so let's put Outer Worlds 2 in there, because your only choice at that point are Ninja Gaiden 4 and Call of Duty. And I don't know if people really wanted to see Call of Duty 2 years in a row, and you just did a 10-minute look at Ninja Gaiden in January. And so the reason I say that is because I think it's odd that they're doing an IGN Direct where IGN's going to have all this exclusive footage. They just posted 11-minute footage for the game on Tuesday when all this stuff was announced. So like, we're going to find out a lot about Outer Worlds 2 this month from IGN. And then
Microsoft gets super mad about leaks, and then they give IGN exclusivity over everything. It's like, bro.
No, that's not the point. That's not the point I'm trying to make.
I know it's not the point you're making, but I'm just throwing that in there to be salty.
Sure. I'm just saying, what I think happened was Outer Worlds 2 was set to have the IGN Direct, which they probably signed a few months ago or whatever. And then like, the showcase was set to be for Fable. But then Fable got delayed. And now it was like, well, we need a game for the Direct. So let's slide Outer Worlds 2 in there, but you're giving all this exclusive information to IGN in April for a game where they're like, "Oh, find all about Outer Worlds 2 in the direct, but we're finding out all about Outer Worlds 2 now." I don't know. It feels odd to me. It feels like it was the showcase was supposed to be for another game, and that like the stuff for Outer Worlds 2 was set to be for IGN, but because of that, they moved it. I don't. Do you think I'm just, is that a conspiracy theory you like, Jez, or do you think that's just no bearing on that? Because I don't know. I just don't know why. If you're gonna do a big show, a direct for your game, like why give someone else all the information beforehand with even footage?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the direct is often like there's often bits about the studio in there. Maybe there's so many
Sure.
features in Outer Worlds that it needs a big direct. But maybe you're right. Maybe
I mean, we would
something
said the
got
same thing about
shunted.
Starfield, but people still talk about that Starfield direct being one of the best sort of single game showcases that they've ever seen.
Mm.
And Starfield had a lot of systems too. So that was my first thought when I was like, well, wait a minute, why has IGN got the IGN first for this stuff, and then it's still the direct game? So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I mean, I could be wrong, and maybe that was always the plan, but something just for me just feels like Fable was supposed to be slotted for that, but because it was delayed, they couldn't do it. Now you could say, well, just don't do a direct then, but it definitely seems like something that's they want to keep on going because this is the third time in a row they be doing it. So it definitely was like, yeah, let's keep on doing this.
I still haven't played Avowed.
You still haven't played Avowed?
No,
Have you
haven't
played
touched
Outer
it.
Worlds before?
Yeah, I've completed Outer Worlds.
What did you what did
Loved
you
that.
what did you think of Outer Worlds 2? I'm
I
assuming
thought
you
it was
watched.
great. I haven't watched the footage yet, actually.
Okay.
I really like the Outer Worlds one. You know, it let me be an asshole, which is just
You
something
love being an
games.
asshole because you're an asshole in real
I love being
life. You
nice.
should hear how Jez treats me behind the scenes. Everybody,
Yeah.
he's just a big dick.
Well, I do have a big dick, but I have to like
Excuse me?
suppress. What? I do have to suppress being a big dick in real life, and so it lets me let my big dick fly um in games like that. So I really enjoyed playing it as a sniper. But then I tried to do another playthrough like as a good guy, like with different weapons, and it felt like every other weapon except sniper rifles felt kind of bad in that game. Like melee didn't feel good, the heavy weapons didn't feel good, the regular guns didn't feel good. So I don't know if that's the playstyle kind of thing, but I don't know. It felt like the sniper rifle's headshots in slow motion was just so much better than the other weapons. I don't know. But maybe it's also one of them. Like because of Skyrim now, I just have to play every game as a stealth sniper. Maybe that's a me problem. But yeah, I'm really excited for the sequel. I really want to. I really want it. I really want it. But I
Yeah.
also want to play Avowed. So
Well, you should play
um,
Avowed.
yeah, I
Avowed. I
will.
mean,
I
Avowed.
want to finish. I want to finish Atomfall first because if I don't finish it, I'm never going to finish it. I've
Mm.
still been playing Atomfall, and they fixed the audio bug recently. So I'm still enjoying
And you're
Atomfall.
still doing good with Adamfall. You're still enjoying it.
Yeah, it's very good. I mean, honestly, I kind of wish there was a bit more combat in the game because most of what you're doing is like investigations. It's a very strange game. Not it's not regular, in its design at all. It's not quite a walking simulator because it has very very mature combat systems, and there are segments in the game where it's like, oh, okay, now you have to do like quite a lot of combat. But it's been a long time since I've done any combat. I keep like talking my way out of things, you know, and maybe it's my own fault. I suppose I could just kill everyone and go in guns blazing. But yesterday, like to get some guys on side, there was a guy there was a woman, a baker, a nice little baker, who was hiding her husband. Her husband is infected with some like, virus, which is, part of the game's plot. And to get on side with these evil military dudes, I dobbed her in to the police, and I avoided having to shoot any of the military dudes, but I also felt a bit guilty that I'd, got this nice little baker murdered,
Mm.
basically, by these military dudes. So, because she violated quarantine to keep her husband safe or whatever. So, I keep talking my way out of things. So I do wish there was a bit more combat, maybe, both in general and also in the open world. But man, it's very 360. It's very, very double A. I'm not gonna lie about that. But it's really cool to see Rebellion branch out from its Sniper Elite Zombie Army trilogy kind of TikTok strategy and have so much success with it. You know, 2 million players I think they've had now, which is awesome for a completely new IP.
Yeah, that is pretty good. That is pretty good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing Outer Worlds 2. I'm gonna play Outer Worlds 1 here soon because I think
Have you played it before?
Yeah, I started it before, but I didn't finish it, so I'm gonna restart it from the beginning. I think I started it when it first came out, but I know like it's been updated and stuff now, so it runs better, looks better. So I'm gonna run through the game, probably do all the DLCs, and then play the sequel when I comes out, whenever it comes out this fall. So another game that recently had its release date leaked, Jez, is Mafia: The Old Country. Supposedly, I guess it had its release date leaked for August 8th.
Yeah, no, that's a game I'm looking forward to. I really
Yeah.
love that setting. Really love that setting. So, pretty excited about that one.
Yeah, I mean, also an August game that you don't, like we don't really get that many big August games, and then because you look at what Take Two is also doing, they have Borderlands 4 in September, and they also have GTA 6. So I sort of wonder if this was like really the only time they could, like, if you assume GTA 6 is this fall, and because Borderlands is going to be bigger than Mafia, like, yeah, when else was Mafia supposed to release? Right?
Yeah, true.
Because if you're expecting GTA 6 in the fall, and that's like October or November, like you can't put Mafia in October or November. So like, and you don't want Mafia anywhere else around Borderlands really. So yeah, I mean, like hearing it, it's August. It's like that's really good for me because there's usually nothing to really play in August. But then also you're looking at it like, damn, maybe GTA is this fall, because if it wasn't, if Take Two knew GTA was 2026, you could easily slap Mafia in October, where you probably would get more sales around that time frame. So the fact that Mafia is
Especially if
August,
it's good.
yeah, which does look like it's going to be good. But so now it's August, so it's got me sort of like thinking, oh man, I think GTA 6 really might be this fall, which would be
Yeah, you're right.
fantastic. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into the
Mafia could
release.
be like a great appetizer for that shit.
You got Mafia in August, you got Borderlands in September, and then we're going it up with GTA 6 in November, and boom. Like, Take Two probably has an incredible year then. So.
Our new Warcraft season will be out by then too. Damn. Everyone will be playing that, right, guys? Right, Rand?
Yeah, nobody's gonna be playing it.
Right. Oh, shit.
Let's see here. We got Champagne Supernova with the super chat. It says the Fincher ad was wonderful, but from a marketing standpoint, it misses the immediate product placement and snappy branding the TikTok gen is used to.
Yeah, actually,
that's true.
that is one thing I thought. I was like, how long does it take to become an Xbox ad? A long fucking time.
Sure.
But like at the same time, I think like if they are going to put this on TV or anywhere like that, there probably is going to be like shorter versions. This is like the showcase.
Yeah, that's
kind
the
of version.
long version, and they'll cut it up to be shorter.
Yeah, they'll slice it
but
up.
I mean,
so
you don't get Dave. You don't get David Fincher
to
David Fincher to direct an ad for it to be a TikTok ad. You know what I mean? Like you let David Fincher do what he does, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of thought so too. But sure the marketing geniuses will come up with a way to cut it to make it like so the TikTok people love it. Mr.
You use
Donataku's
the
here.
term genius very liberally there.
Mr. Donataku's here. He's been repping Nintendo all day, every day on Twitter, trying to cut through the misinformation. I see him all the time when I bring up my feed and when I'm checking it. You got Donataku being like, anything to do with
I haven't seen
Nintendo.
any
He's like, it's not true. It's not true. It's not true. You're hating. Nintendo's the best. They got the best games.
I do wish I liked Nintendo. I just have higher fucking standards.
Don't
man.
say that.
It's the problem,
He'll get upset. But he says, "Where's Wu-Tang?" And yeah, that is a game that was leaked.
Actually, we do have an update about that.
Yeah, there's some layoffs at Brass Lion.
Yeah, I saw on LinkedIn the other day. Brass Lion laid off quite a lot of staff in quite high-ranking roles.
Mm-hmm.
So that could mean one of two things. It could mean that aspect of the development is done, and they've realized we need to save money. Here's how we can save money. Or things are so dire, they've just had to lay people off that get the highest salaries and just hope they can muddle on with what they've got left. So, yeah, I have no idea if that game's still coming out. It sounds like they couldn't get more money from Microsoft. Maybe they missed milestones or some shit like that. But yeah, it does seem tough times over there, man.
I would not be shocked to read one day that whatever game they were working on was canceled.
Well, they did say in the layoff thingamabob, they did say they're still working on it.
Yeah, I'm just saying it wouldn't shock me if one day in the future
it was eventually canceled.
It was like Brass Line has to lay off even more people and the game they were working on was canceled. It would not shock me at all. At all.
Yeah, maybe.
Which would be unfortunate because people heard about that game and thought it looked pretty cool, or at least the idea of it being pretty cool.
We got forever, baby.
Meat Puppet says Scalebound 2030. Do you think they'll fix Halo? Oh man, I mean that's a loaded question. Some people would tell you that Halo doesn't need fixing. Other people would tell you that. I mean, I'm just saying there's always people there's always people that like want things different for Halo, and then like the hardcore fans are like, you can't change this. Like the debate's been about Sprint since Sprint was introduced, because there's like, hey, Halo plays too slow and too old school for this generation, so like you got to keep up with the times, and it's like, so you try to do things to as they say, like they wanted to codify it, like make it more like Call of Duty to appeal to this new audiences, but then the hardcore fans pitch a fit because they don't want it. They want Halo to play like it did in Halo 2 and Halo 3. So like you're stuck in this thing of trying to appease the core fan base, but also trying to branch out to new players, because you need new players to sustain yourself and to run a successful business. So it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. So I mean, to fix Halo is a loaded question, because I'm sure the ones who are playing it now probably love it the way it is, and I'm sure the ones who have fallen off are like, no, they need to do X, Y, and Z to make it better. But like, what's better, and like what needs to be fixed with Halo? I mean, people be like, Infinite was amazing. Like the multiplayer was fantastic, and you look at the reviews from back in 2021, and it's like an 87 or 88, which is really, really high, and it ran into its rough state because it didn't have any post-launch content, and everybody left the game, and they never came back, as it happens with these live service games. Like you have that first impression, and man, you better hope they don't leave you, and otherwise they'll just go back to the game they're playing. So I don't know what they can do to fix Halo, because you can't change Halo too much, because then that's not Halo. And
yeah, and there's so much competition though.
Yeah,
so
much competition for your time, for your money. We always joked about like oh well, what people really want, like casual consumers, and you know, is the skins, right? Like you talk about Fortnite, and Fortnite just released a Sabrina Carpenter skin, and
Oh, that's
all I'm seeing in some of these Twitter posts that get sent to me are like 30 people in Fortnite just dancing to Sabrina Carpenter, right? And or like people playing as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Call of Duty, and even the Call of, like, I think even Activision, or one of the Call of Duty devs said, like, yeah, we're aware of how like the skins make Call of Duty look ridiculous, and they do,
It
but
does.
that's what people want. People want the ridiculous stuff. Like, that's what they're willing to spend their money for. And you can do that in Fortnite, and it seems like you can do it up to a point in Call of Duty. But Halo doesn't have that, and like the hardcore fans don't want it. Like, there's people bitching about cat ears and shit.
I noticed that they've added Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah, Jay and Silent Bob, the Call of Duty, and it's probably gonna sell a bunch, right? I mean, there was the report that the numbers are through the roof for Verdansk coming back. That it's doing really, really well again. So they're probably gonna.
Warzone?
Yeah, that's Warzone. They brought back the OG map from 2020 or whatever year it was, back when I actually played Warzone. But I mean, Halo. I guess when people say they need to fix Halo, each person that says that is going to have a different way in their mind of how to fix Halo. So if you ask somebody that doesn't care about the multiplayer, they're only going to really talk about the campaign and the single player. I want this. This needs to happen for this. But then you could talk to somebody who only cares about the multiplayer, and then they want it this way, and they want these changes or not these changes. So everybody's going to have their own opinion about how you quote-unquote save and fix Halo. And, I mean, I don't even know what you need to do. Like, I don't know. I mean, obviously you got to make the best game possible.
I'm not the Halo guy.
You got to make the best game possible, right? But you can't stray too far from what Halo is, because then like the people who play it all the time aren't going to play it. But then I don't know if those players anymore are enough to keep Halo afloat. So then you got to, I don't know, man. It's a tricky thing. And they got plenty of people that are super paid well enough to figure out that stuff. And I don't know. I guess you have to ask the question to yourself, is Halo relevant in the year of 2025 of our Lord? Like, does Halo matter at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, like, they've got Overwatch now.
Nobody cares, because Overwatch is losing to Marvel Rivals.
Not losing, bro.
It's losing. Marvel Rivals is beating the bricks off of Overwatch.
Yeah, but Marvel Rivals is stupid.
Yeah, well, like, I still think Halo is important. Don't get me wrong. But is the casual gamer out there, the ones that make all these free-to-play games super successful, does Halo matter to them? I'm not sure it does. And, I don't know what 343's business plan is. Maybe it is by starting off with the best. If you remake Halo CE and people be like, oh, damn, look how cool it looks. Oh, you go back to what made Halo popular in the first place. Maybe that's the starting point. And then you have a plan of like, hey, we'll do Halo CE, remake first. And then we introduce, like, I don't know, Halo 7 with these sort of things. And we go from there. I don't know. Whatever it is, I'm super interested in finding out their plans and seeing what they have, what they've been thinking about and what they've been working on.
Yeah. We'll see. I shouldn't say that, actually.
What? Okay.
I'll tell you later.
BT Maverick says, do you guys have any predictions when we will see that Asus Xbox Copilot Rog Ally X handheld? Also, great discussions with Fox on Xbox 2+1.
Yeah, Fox was awesome.
Well, Jez,
what was the question again about the
predictions about when we'll see it, I guess. When we will see the Asus thing.
Yeah, I heard that it was gonna launch in May, but maybe that wasn't the launch. Maybe it was the reveal. So maybe we get the reveal in May before the showcase because, like you said, they don't do hardware at the shows usually. So maybe you announce the hardware and then you announce the games that's coming to the hardware. Do a little showcase of the device during the show, just like an ad to remind people it's a thing. So I don't have information on this, but just gonna guess that we see it in May.
I mean, May would be good. Um,
But maybe the tariffs has thrown that into flux now, because obviously I think Asus China based?
I do
I
not
think they
know
are.
if they are.
Let
Whew,
me let me just look them up.
those some bad
Oh
tariffs
no
there.
no. Asus is Taiwanese, but I would guess that they manufacture in China probably. I don't know.
Don't know.
I don't know for sure. But yeah, I think we'll see Kenan. Fucking Keenan, man. Can't believe I got that bit wrong. Oh man. I think that was literally just like not wearing my glasses or some shit.
Maybe.
It's hilarious. I do all this work to verify that it's real, get all the documents and, all as much information as I can. And somehow, some way, missed that I'd spelt the fucking name wrong.
Mm,
But anyways,
unbelievable.
yeah.
A big game that skipped Xbox is finally coming to Xbox in June, Jez, which was kind of teased before. Zenless Zone Zero.
ZZZ. Yep.
From what MiHoYo? Was that how you say the company's name?
Hoyoverse.
Okay,
I think
Hyoverse.
MiHoYo's their trading name.
Okay.
Hoyoverse
These
the
are the people
publisher
that
name.
make Genshin Impact, which came to Xbox. What was it, last year?
Sure did.
They still also have Honkai Star Rail, which at this point probably come to Xbox in the future, if considering
Yeah, I
these
think there
two
was
are.
like there was a hard exclusivity deal for Honkai Star Rail, I think.
Yeah, because
Which expires, I believe, this year at some point. So yeah, you gotta imagine that Star Rail will come as well eventually. Star Rail's the turn-based one.
what's Zenless
Zenless
Zone
Zone
Zero?
Zero's
Which one is
I,
that?
I'm not sure what the gameplay's like, to be honest. I think it's like, isn't it more like a brawler? It's a brawler set in like modernish kind of times with like a cyberpunky kind of sci-fi kind of twist. A lot of, scantily clad anime girls in the game,
Mm,
which
gotcha
we
game.
all
Is
know
it a gotcha
Rand.
game?
It's a gacha game. They're all gacha
They're
games.
all gotcha games. Okay.
Rand really likes that
Yeah.
stuff. So there's that. Honkai Star Rail is futuristic fantasy, kind of, and it's turn-based. So you earn characters that you can battle in turn-based combat with blah 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 blah. It's very very popular, and it kind of I suppose it's persona-y in a way, kind of, maybe, sort of. And then you've got Genshin Impact, which is sort of like, I don't know, similar to the Tales. No, what is it called? Tales of Arise. It always reminds me of Tales of Arise, that game. Um, Sort of like it's an action RPG kind of thing, and more like traditional fantasy. So those are they've got other games too, I think, but those are like the three big ones that were missing from Xbox. That I wrote an article bitching about last summer, if you remember correctly.
Mm,
Um, I was like, how does Xbox expect to get Gen Z on board when they don't have the Hoyoverse games, which is the games they all want to play? So that's how we get Gen Z on Xbox, and they've got them now eventually, at least. They seem
yeah.
to do pretty well. They
Well, I
they
mean
ride
the
fairly high
the
on the free to play list.
I mean Zenless Zones. I think now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it definitely took longer for Genshin Impact at Xbox than Zenless Zone Zero.
Yeah, well, I suppose they've got the engine down, right?
So
So
they
it's
did this.
probably
They
the
did the
porting
spotlight
is
for
much
it
easier
today.
now.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's coming for those that are looking forward to it. We also have marathon gameplay, PlayStation game from Bungie coming to Xbox on day one. They kind of did they had a whole bunch of creators over to play the game. They did a whole blitz on social media announcing like the reveal date. So tomorrow, I think at like noon, is the first official gameplay reveal of Marathon, which I think will end with a closed alpha thing, which you probably have to sign up for or get like codes for or something. But hey, there's a lot of excitement in the air from this. Bungie's first game since Destiny 2. Do they still have the magic? Apparently, it's a team-based three squad. Like you squad up with three other people or two other people, including you. So 3-person squad. Team-based extraction shooter.
Right.
So I guess we'll see how that plays out. Are you looking forward to checking out Marathon gameplay at all?
You know, I've never really tried an extraction shooter, except for the Division, I suppose, which kind of started it all, right?
The Dark Zone?
The Dark Zone, I suppose, is kind of like an extraction shooter.
A little bit,
You
yeah.
know,
A
high
little bit.
stakes, extract shit, PvE mixed in. So I've never really given any extraction shooter a good go. Because I honestly found the Dark Zone to be stressful, frankly. And I was just like, I don't need this stress in my life. But some people love that stress. They thrive on that stress, man. They thrive on it, you know. But so, in one hand, it's probably like not going to be for me, probably. But I'm curious to see, like you said, does Bungie still have the magic? And you know, the creators were very positive on it. The people who got to play it. Tom Henderson said people he knows who played it were very positive on it. There was another thing about Marathon. They announced that it won't require a PlayStation Network account on Xbox or on PC, which was a surprise to me. But it seems Bungie rather, still has some sway over how their games are put out there, for better or worse. So, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I am
We'll
interested
see
in
how it
seeing
goes,
what
man.
the game is because, like, the art they've shown for the game looks incredible. Like, their art team has got it nailed down. But Bungie's art's always been amazing, from Halo to
Better than Concord.
Destiny. Well, yes, there's no comparison there. So, yeah, I'm. Look, like I said, I'm always on the lookout for the next multiplayer game for me because there really hasn't been ever since I dropped God, what was even the last one? Not even PUBG. Like I think Warzone was the last one we kind of got into and stopped doing. So yeah, I am interested in whatever Bungie's doing here with this game. Now, is it? Could I see myself really playing an extraction shooter like that? I don't know. I've never really played one. I'm not like an Escape from Tarkov guy or anything like that, but I'm gonna be checking it out tomorrow just to see what it's like. But it does give me confidence that this game's going to release this year then, right? If you're doing a gameplay reveal for Marathon in April, then it sort of feels like the game's coming this year, right?
I would think so.
Yeah, maybe sometime in the fall. I don't know, but that Marathon's happening tomorrow. And then we got some bad news, Jez. Because
Hit me with the bad news.
last week we reported on a rumor that Titanfall 3 was coming. They had 2 Apex leakers talking about it and all this stuff. And then what do you know? The Grubster himself, the one and only Jeff Grubb, had to come in and basically tell everybody not to get excited for it.
Ruin everyone's lives.
Yeah, like he came out and he said in his tweet, Titanfall 3 isn't real. It isn't in the works, let alone near completion and close to announcement for a 2026 release. Respawn is working on Apex Legends, Star Wars Jedi 3, and the Bit Reactor Star Wars game. It then also has Steve Fukada's Skunkwork projects, which is years away. So the dreams the Grubster has ruined because of this. You know?
I don't like EA, dude. Why does EA do this to me?
I don't know.
Dead Space, Titanfall, Dragon Age.
Apparently, the Dead Space movie is still moving along, though. I did see an announcement about that. So,
oh great,
there's gonna be a Dead Space movie. Can't wait. Hopefully, it's gonna be great, and then you can see all the people playing the Dead Space games, and then EA's gonna be like, "Fuck, we should have greenlit the Dead Space 2." Shit, you know.
EA and disappointment. Name a more iconic duo.
Yeah, that's true. But this is very. I mean, I think we said last week. I'll believe it when I see it. And
Yeah.
I wasn't getting excited for it because I was like, yeah, right, this ain't happening. And then Jeff Grubb comes in clutch and it was like, nope, ain't real, buddy. And it's like, yes, I didn't hype myself up, but also, fuck, I wanted it to be real though. I wanted it to be real so bad. The one of the things we've talked about a lot this year is the ABK games and what's taken so long for them to come to Game Pass, right? And we talked about that, and then like the next week, well, look, Diablo 3 came to Game Pass, and we even talked about the idea of like, hey, Tony Hawk 3 and 4 are coming in July. Like, why isn't Tony Hawk 1 and 2 in Game Pass yet? Plus, you have all these other Call of Duty games, right?
Yeah.
But then Xbox Era reported that on the Windows Store PC, a couple of these Call of Duty games, if you kind of look at them on PC, said like they're included in Game Pass, even though they're not in Game Pass. And it was like Call of Duty World at War, I think was one of them, or Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and Tony Hawk 1 and 2. So is this a mistake where it's listed wrong? Or are we about to get some drops for some older Call of Duty games plus Tony Hawk 1 and 2? It just really seems if you're launching Tony Hawk 1 and 2 this month or like in May when the sequel comes in July, that really that doesn't seem like the best strategy to me. But I mean, put the games in Game Pass, of course. What do you think about this? When we talked about it earlier this year, we were just like, hey, what's taking so long? And now they're like finally gotten to the point where like, okay, all this is like set up properly and we're ready to go and it's all integrated and stuff. And now we're going to start doing this.
Maybe they just listened to the podcast and they were like, oh, you know what? Rand's right. We completely forgot about this.
Yeah, I'm sure they completely forgot about those games.
Well, I have no idea, man. Microsoft works in mysterious ways. A lot of what they do doesn't make any sense to me. We're sort of playing with the half deck. We don't know like what data they've got. That's what drives these decisions. They're a data-driven company at the end of the day, supposedly. So we always speculated that it was maybe an issue about curation. They didn't want people to jump on the old school Call of Duties when they've got skins to sell in the new school Call of Duties. So it revolves around the fact that there's a finite amount of users in Game Pass, and that they target games that they think maybe will either prevent churn, users quitting, or get new users. And I think if a game doesn't fall into either one of those categories, generally speaking, there's a low chance of it coming. So maybe some of these titles are to prevent churn. And they're like, okay, we've got this bullet in the chamber for this month to prevent the churn or the decreased churn or whatever, so on and so forth. But again, purely speculative. Microsoft works in mysterious ways.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say you owe it to the people, but you kind of owe it to the people to start dropping some of this stuff,
Yeah, maybe.
Those are stuff you promised alongside the completion of the deal or when you announced to acquire them, and it's taken a long time, and they're sitting there, and it's like, all right, now it's time. I just sort of feel like, man, Tony Hawk would have been a good game to have in there last year so people can be like, hey, this Tony Hawk game's good. And then like, oh, I want to play the sequel. It's in Game Pass. Not because I could see a scenario where they drop Tony Hawk 1 and 2 in May, and then people are like, oh, 3 and 4, like, I don't need this. I just played 1 and 2. I don't, or maybe the opposite of like, oh, I loved 1 and 2 so much, let me play 3 and 4 right now. But they sometimes the companies do this where they'll put a game in Game Pass to hype up their new release. Like Borderlands 3 just came to Game Pass, like the Ultimate Edition with all the DLC and everything just came to Game Pass. And I mean that's clearly I think meant to like get people to play Borderlands 3 and have them enjoy it because Borderlands 4 is coming in September. So I would imagine Borderlands 3 probably leaves at some point before Borderlands 4 plus GTA 5 in Game Pass again. Is that another indicator that GTA 6 is coming this year to get more people into Game Pass, on Game Pass into GTA 5, and then boom, we launch a GTA 6 later in the year? Possibly.
Seems like it to me.
All right, you know what? I know it's getting late because we started an hour later because I had something to do. So let's hit up the Patreon questions. So I appreciate everyone hanging out with us on this Friday, April 11th. If you could do us a big favor, hit the like button, subscribe. Check out the sponsor of the episode. It's linked in the comments or it's in the description for Surfshark, 86% off for a 2-year deal. Links in the description.
That's a fantastic deal.
It is a pretty damn awesome deal. So if you're want to check that out, supports the show if you do. We greatly appreciate that. And yeah, hit the like button, subscribe, and we're gonna head to some questions right now. See what people have to say in the Xbox 2 universe. Questions. All right, so we got Silas. Happy Friday, mates. With the upcoming marathon news, I've reflected back to pundits talking about how there's a Bungie feel to their gunplay. And I've heard about the Nintendo polish and how there's unique feel to how a 3D Mario controls. And of course, you have Rand chirping about how nobody simulates walking like Ninja Theory. Damn you, Silas. My question is why? Games are computer programs, their code. Why can't another dev replicate Bungie's gunplay or make a 3D game that is as tightly controlled as a 3D Mario? Code is code. Gaming is a copycat industry. I've heard the justification of certain individuals being responsible, but programmers move jobs and a game is still a program. It's a very, very interesting question and probably more in depth than something like me or Jez would have the answer to that, but
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that is a tough question to answer.
but it's a true
I mean,
question. I mean, like, he's not wrong about Bungie's
no, it's
like
right.
stuff like feeling different. Maybe it has to do with engine use, like the engine. And
I mean, that's part of it, but I think some of it's like almost that sort of subliminal sort of gap that like AI can't replicate fully yet. Whereas like, yeah, you can sort of copy Studio Ghibli style with AI, or someone can like get really good at it, but it's not quite truly his style, right? And I kind of like when you were reading out that question, kind of reminded me back to my animator days when I was a kid and I was animating and competing on Newgrounds for views on my cartoons and stuff. I learned to animate by watching other animators flash videos frame by frame, right? It's like, oh, okay, so if I want to make an arm look like that, I need to move it at this speed, so on and so forth, whatever. Um, so I sort of like, that's how I sort of cut my teeth learning how to do some of that stuff. And, but I still couldn't, even like the animators that I watched all the time to try and like learn how to do some of that stuff, I could never ever fully replicate that style, right? I could never fully replicate it. And then like when I sort of established my own style over time by blending other people's styles, like nobody could really replicate mine either. So I think that's part of it. It's sort of like the coalescence of like coding style, engine style, personal touch, the artist specifically, the team of artists working together to create something that feels, uncannily them. So there's so many things that go into like how a gun feels and all that kind of stuff, which is I often like why I bitch about gore in games. It's not necessarily that I want to have every game be violent, bloody, and gory. It's oftentimes like I just want my guns to feel like they have more impact. Like if I hit a dude in the face with a shotgun, I want to feel the impact on that. I don't want the bullets to go into his body like he's a sponge. I think it's more immersive and it makes the guns feel more impactful. Not just about the violence for the sake of violence, right? So like with Halo, it's like, the feel of the way a pistol feels or a battle rifle and all that kind of stuff. It's iconic. Like I don't even play Halo that much, but like I can feel in my head Halo battle rifle
and
feels a certain
that
way,
was why.
right?
Remember when you were reporting on those rumors about Halo moving to Unreal?
People
Like a
freaked
year
out.
before it happened, people freaked out because they were like, "Well, how can Unreal capture how the feeling of Halo?" right?
Yeah, the feeling. Yeah.
And to be fair, like I'm not a technical guy when it comes to the gaming stuff, so I think your question is awesome, and it is something I would love to know the answer of, but I just don't know much about it to really give an answer either way. I don't know if it has to do with the engines they're using, because I mean that would be different. Like I'm sure Nintendo uses their own engines versus everybody else, which could be the reason why Mario feels this way and other platformers don't feel that way because they can't use, you know, the engine that Nintendo built for Mario. And
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what engine Bungie even uses really, because
It's proprietary, isn't
I
it?
don't think Bungie uses like Unreal or anything, so that might be their own engine. Maybe that's why.
Wasn't it like based on id Tech? It's like their own engine
I
based
don't
on
know.
id Tech.
I don't know.
Something like that. Something weird. I don't know.
But you
I
are
don't know.
right. You'd be like, well, it's code, and the people at those different studios have gone to work at other places. So like, why couldn't all just feel the same?
Yeah.
It's a good question. I just don't know the answer to.
Good.
Maybe,
Good.
maybe. While I'm reading these questions, Jez, ask ChatGPT. See what ChatGPT has to say about this.
I don't know.
Just
Just GPT that.
You don't want to ask ChatGPT that? Why not?
Because it'll just say some bullshit, man.
Oh, it'll just say some bullshit. Okay. We do have a super chat here from Nazir who says, "Hey guys, heard anything new about E-Day? I have not heard anything about E-Day. I mean, I guess it's probably safe to say it's not releasing this year, considering if it was, I would imagine it was going to be the direct game after the showcase. But it's not, so I think it's pretty safe to say that it's next year, which, leads to like a big year they could have next year. But I definitely think we'll probably see it again at this showcase. There'll probably be another trailer for it. I don't think it'll close the show because I'm thinking like, well, what's going to close the show this year? It's got to be an unannounced game of some kind, but from who? But I'll have to think more
There's
about
so
that
much we don't know. So much.
My predictions. We got OMG Turtles saying, "Hey, lovely people. I hope you've had a great week. With Xbox announcing their June showcase, I thought it would be a great time to get an early prediction from each of you, and I mean a balls to the wall out there prediction. You know the type. The ones where if they came true, they'd have to be another 15-minute segment of Rand trying to convince everybody he's not an insider, even though we all know he is. Shh, Rand, just admit it. It's okay. Have a great show, guys." A balls to the wall, huh?
Balls to the wall.
Balls to the wall. Huh.
Balls to the wall, for me, would be Guitar Hero reboot with Xbox-made peripherals, with a partnership with Spotify for infinite songs, and a partnership with Meta for some kind of VR play.
So it's
with
like
Guitar
is
Hero.
a balls to the wall something that's like an unannounced game or something that like nobody expects? Or because if I just said, "Hey, Gears E-Day is going to be there with the 2026 release date," that's not really balls to the wall, right? That's kind of just to be expected. But I guess like nobody would expect Guitar Hero, yeah? Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because a long time ago, if you remember, I put out there that Bobeth Kotick had a big meeting at Blizzard where he was talking about the partnership with Xbox, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. And he said in that meeting, which was hosted by James Corden for some reason, he said in that meeting, we wouldn't be able to bring back Guitar Hero without Microsoft, right? Now, I don't know if he said that just for the sake of saying it, or if that was like something that they wanted to do. But Phil has name-checked Guitar Hero in the past.
Yes.
So.
All right. So here's my balls to the wall for this. The Xbox show ends, and we get a glimpse of a space marine with a cigar in his mouth, and he says, "It's about damn time." And it's StarCraft. But it's not a StarCraft RTS, it's a StarCraft shooter. There you go. StarCraft is back. Balls to the wall.
Surely that's a BlizzCon thing.
Well, I'm just saying, well, this is a balls to the wall thing, Jez. I mean, yeah, if BlizzCon, sure, that'd be more of a BlizzCon thing, but if Xbox is trying to go big at this one and impress people, yeah, bringing back StarCraft would be it. Yeah, I mean that would be a big thing. You don't think that would be an end of a show announcement? Some awesome CGI by Blizzard.
That would be pretty cool.
Now you don't even got to show gameplay. It's just a CGI announcement, and it's like StarCraft. Some colon something something something, right? Or not even. You don't even have to do. You just call it. You just say StarCraft, and then people will probably be like, "Fuck, dude, StarCraft."
StarCraft, dude.
That's ball to the wall right there.
Yeah, maybe. I'd be down for that. But I do think that's a BlizzCon thing.
Yeah, probably right, but we got BHO Reviews who says, "You guys always do a great job and really get me through my work week as I listen to you in my car on my way to and from work. I was wondering what you guys think if GTA 6 was released in 2025, but after the deadline for the Game Awards like Indiana Jones in 2024. Do you think they would allow an exception? Love to hear your thoughts." Ooh. An exception for GTA 6? Would Keeley stoop so low?
Of course you would.
Yeah. I think if it was close enough, I think the whole thing is that the exception, like the game has to be out at retail by a certain date. But the problem is, like, let's just say a game, like say the cutoff date's like November 17th. But like the ballots go out, I think sometime like late October or October. So sometimes like the November games get sort of overlooked and people can write them in. I'm not exactly sure how it all works because I'm not a member of the voting block on the Game Awards. But I think if people are reviewing the game at that time, as long as the game's releasing by a certain point to the general public, it can be included. And I would imagine like GTA 6 probably going to have a large lead-in for reviewers to review it. So I would imagine there'd be enough people, and as long as the game's physically out for people to buy by the cutoff date, it'd be included. If it released, let's just say the Keeley cutoff date was the 15th, but GTA 6 launched on the 20th, then by his own rules, it would be ineligible. Unless he would to bend the rules in before the rules showed up, knowing that GTA 6 wasn't releasing to the 20th, so then the cutoff date suddenly was the 21st.
I don't know. Hard to say, man.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think he would blatantly be like, hey, this rule here was the 15th, and it's now the game's released in the 17th, and then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, it's actually the 18th. I don't think it'd be something like that, but I think I don't. Well, the thing with Indiana Jones was it came out in December. GTA 6 is not releasing in December, and GTA 6 is not releasing after Thanksgiving. It'll be either like late October or early November, well within the amount of time to be not eligible for the Game Awards. We got Logan Myers says, "Hey guys, hope all is well. Question for Jez. In your written write-up about Toys for Bob, you said, quote, I have it on good authority that some very loved, dormant Activision Blizzard IP are slated for a comeback. More about that another time. Any chance you could elaborate more on that or at least give a hint? Starving for some happy news. Cheers."
Sorry, I'd love to give you some happy news, but the answer is no.
Sorry, man. You're telling Logan he's got to wait?
You gotta wait. You gotta wait for the events. Maybe we find out in June.
Yeah, maybe. But if it's not June, I'd definitely say it'd probably be BlizzCon next year.
Maybe.
We got Panda Man, who says, one of the main benefits is the length of time you can enjoy your console if purchased early in its life. I bought my Series X and S 4 years ago, and they still run great. Do you worry with going with Asus as a partner that the hardware will break more often? Thanks, guys. And the White Sox are off to a great start. Yeah, they sure are. What a wonderful start the White Sox are off to.
What are the White Sox doing?
I think they've lost like 7 in a row or something. So they're like 2. They're like 2-9. But whatever. Who cares about that?
It's
Do
funny
do
shit.
Asus's break a lot? Is that what Panda Man's kind of getting at here?
There's
Is-
kind of a reputation for this, and I think part of it is some of the big tech YouTubers shone a spotlight on Asus's um repair sort of systems and stuff like that, and like how little or how little they do for consumers when it comes to repair and shit and things like that. But I can only speak for myself and the experiences I've had. Like I battered my Asus Rog Ally. I brutalized that thing and it never broke on me. And then eventually I sold it to get a Lenovo Legion Go. As far as I know, it's still not broken with the person I sold it to. I mean, I could check in. So I mean, the fact I have had a spotlight shone on them about their quality, you want to hope to some degree that maybe that helped them book their ideas up a bit, maybe. But also maybe that's just hopium slash copium. So I suppose remains to be seen ultimately what happens with all that shit. But I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm sure Microsoft's no stranger to their products having wear and tear issues.
Sure.
And if they're putting their brand on it, it's kind of like, well, people are going to expect an Xbox-like experience, whether it's like going through Microsoft repairs to get it repaired and all that kind of shit. Yeah, like Cameron Partlow in chat says, everyone should have an iFixit deal like Valve does for the Steam Deck. Yeah, like iFixit is so good. And I think there is gradually a shift in the industry towards letting people repair their own shit because it's cheaper for them at the end of the day. If I can repair my Xbox controller, if I can repair my Elite controller, so on and so forth, then I don't have to send it off to Microsoft to be repaired. I literally repaired my Elite controller recently. It's not as repairable as I'd like. Could be better, but I feel like it's getting there compared to like the products we used to have back in the day that were just literally full of glue and you could not repair them for in any sort of reasonable kind of way. I do feel like we are moving potentially towards that some of that kind of stuff. So um yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I'm gonna give Asus the benefit of the doubt because, like I say, I had a good experience with my ROG Ally, and yeah, I'm sure it's probably in reference to like the ROG Ally melting people's SD cards because of the
Hmm.
way the vents were positioned. They did fix that with thermal throttling on the fans and stuff, but um, yeah, I see what you're saying. But they probably learnt a lot from the first version. We hope.
It's interesting.
So
This generation is kind of like the opposite of previous ones because previous ones is if you waited, right, you would have a whole bunch of games that you could play that had come out in the previous, and like you could get your system for cheaper, right? This generation, systems hardly ever went on sale, and actually, some of the systems actually got more expensive. And like subscription costs have gone up, so it's almost like the early adopters are the ones who benefited the most, almost, because
kind of cooked, isn't it?
it's a weird thing. It's
Has there
really
ever been a
weird.
gen where the prices went up over time instead of down?
No, I think over time prices always went down, but this generation it was like prices just really stayed the same, and then they went up, and it looks like
I
game
think part of it is
prices.
because companies realized they could use graphics processors for more than just gaming.
Mm,
And now there's a demand for graphics processing for business applications. Whether it's AI servers, crypto, all that kind of shit, right? Which is obviously non-game related. So that increases the demand on that type of silicon, which I suppose affects the price. And it's as the I suppose the manufacturing process has gotten more complicated as they've shrunk the transistors. It's reduced the amount of, I suppose, to some degree, reduced the amount of companies that are able to produce that technology, which puts us a strain on the supply. But European Union, America has invested a lot in trying to build homegrown chip fabs. That's partially to insulate themselves from um, having your supply chains exposed to China, and I suppose also partially to maybe hopefully bring the cost down of some of these devices. But I don't know. It's all a bit pie in ye old sky right now.
Mm. We got BMMM 777 says, with Heroes of the Storm coming to Game Pass and getting perks, do you think we could see it coming to console? I've never really liked click to move games. I couldn't get in Diablo until it came to console. Also, on a side note, I was surprised Hearthstone never came to console either. I feel like those games would definitely get a bigger player base if they did. Happy Friday, y'all. I always enjoy the show and hope you two are well. Thank you.
I think the reason Hearthstone never came to console is because they probably looked at what happened with Gwent and just thought,
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
nah.
Because Gwent,
But
they had to discontinue that, right? Like, basically pull
yeah,
it.
Gwent on console got discontinued. But in the Play Anywhere era, and the Balatro era and stuff like that, maybe there is like room for a Play Anywhere version of Hearthstone that runs across the handhelds and also Xbox, incidentally, and can be updated across both with minimal amount of effort involved. So, maybe there's some hope for Hearthstone on console. But I want to believe that one of the reasons they're doing BlizzCon next year is because they want to have some big announcements for Hearthstone. Heroes of the Storm. The fact that they're updating it frequently now and, gone back to doing lots of balance passes, and they seem to be building up a team around that game again. Whereas, like, for a long time, it was in pure maintenance mode with people doing it as a side project almost. Um, I want to believe that the game will come to console because, kind of like you, like, I enjoy MOBAs. I don't really like the clicking aspect of it, though. So I prefer Diablo with a controller. And I also played Pokemon Unite on and off, which I felt as well played a lot better with a controller, It's a MOBA, but it plays really well with the controller. I think that proves that you can play these games with a controller. I think as long as you separate the controller users and the keyboard users from each other, I don't think there's an issue, at least in competitive ranked play or whatever. So I would hope that that happens. You could even do things like put Doomguy in there and other, if it's the Nexus. I don't know why you can't have non-Blizzard IP in there. It makes no sense whatsoever for Overwatch IP to be fighting against a Blizzard IP, Warcraft IP. It makes no sense, right? And also there's some like original heroes in there too from the Nexus world. So I don't know. I think they should do it. Will they do it? It remains to be seen.
Mm. I did see that they're doing more Game Pass Ultimate perks for stuff like Call of Duty, right? Warzone. Did you
Yeah,
see that?
I did not see that.
Yeah, they Call of Duty added some perks for Game Pass Ultimate for you get 2 operator skins, 3 weapon blueprints, 2 emotes, a weapon charm, weapon reticle, emblem, 2 stickers, 2 XP tokens for 1 hour, and 2 weapon XP tokens for 1 hour.
Hmm.
You got to claim those by May 8th, and it's listed as Game Pass Pack 1. So it's potentially you should be getting more of those, but it's definitely kind of the stuff you would want to see more often for these free to play games, right?
Yeah. There
Um,
needs to be a reason for service game players to subscribe to these services. Because if I'm someone who just doesn't have time to play 300 games, and I am someone who doesn't have time to play 300 games, I need additional value added there. I mean, I mainly subscribe because um, it's my job. But I often think to myself, would I subscribe if it wasn't my job? Would I subscribe, if I was playing so many service games and stuff like that? Or would I subscribe on and off? Um, I'm honestly not sure. But more free to play benefits would be cool.
all right, we have. Oh, accidentally closed the page, but let me go back to look at that. Let's see. 1 second. Let me load this back up. We have John, who says, "Hey Jez, as a fan of the old Sierra games on PC back in the day, I was hoping that a lot of their back catalog would come to PC Game Pass, as they are owned by Activision. Any idea why this hasn't happened?"
Might be legalese stuff. It might be like we got the rights to this from Sierra, but we don't necessarily have streaming rights or subscription service rights. That's why we never saw Mech Assault hit Game Pass or backwards compatibility. It might be that a Microsoft lawyer is like, oh well, if there's any stakeholder left for that deal still alive, maybe there's an issue there. That could open Microsoft up to being sued. But yeah, it's like Cameron said in chat, license hell for that old Sierra stuff. So maybe that's the reason. Honestly, don't know, but there is a ton of retro stuff that I'm sure they do have full bore rights to. That I would love to see them do some stuff with, even like going all the way back to like the 80s and shit. And that's kind of like that's one of the ways they've pitched this Muse AI thing. So like I don't know if you guys tried the Quake
Ugh,
demo.
that looked
The
awful, bro. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But dude, it's research. Like if you go back 2 years and look at what ChatGPT's image generation looked like 2 years ago, or the video generation, like those creepy videos of Will Smith eating spaghetti, it's night and day compared to what it is now. So like imagine like this generative AI, you know, stuff, this research, and it is purely research. Like Microsoft Research is independent of Xbox. They research. Their job is to just research anything. You know, there's professors work there and the students go in there. It's sort of like their job is not to find products. It's like, hey, we researched this, and then maybe someone at Xbox could be like, oh, actually, we could borrow that into a product, right? This is purely research with this stuff. It's like, look, we can do this. We're not going to figure out if there's anything that can come of it. We're going to do it. So you have to imagine, like, if we extrapolate that AI video looked terrible 2 years ago, and now it looks, it's getting there. Like AI video game generation, maybe that gets there in 2 years as well. And purely from a preservation standpoint, if I can feed, and this is one of the pitches that they said for this technology, if I can feed an old ass Commodore game or something into a diffusion model and then allow it to run on any system without having to install the engine, or do any porting or anything like that. That could be a fantastic way to preserve old games, like Quake 2, if you don't have to do any port work, or perhaps the technology isn't even there. Maybe even the source code for the game no longer exists and only executables exist. And like rather than reverse engineer that shit, you have some bots on a server farm play the game until they've learnt every single nook and cranny of the game. And you can just sort of play a recreation of it in the neural network's imagination. That's the idea of this research. It's not like to build a whole game using it. It's for like prototyping and maybe preserving really old ass games that aren't future proofed. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, maybe like some of those older games are a good candidate for testing some of this research.
Maybe. I don't know. That Quake thing did look really bad, but
Yeah, but 2 years. Give it 2 years and it
we'll
won't.
see. Yeah. I don't know. It's not something I'm interested in. We got Sick and Tired, who says, "Hey guys, first question for Jez. Can you go over a bit about how you get insider leaks? Do you think that you have the same contacts as some other leakers? And how much are you sitting on now choosing not to say that you think you would make some noise?"
I mean, I've got a couple of things that like if I did say it, it would blow the fuck up and get me loads of clicks, but it'd also get me blacklisted, probably from Microsoft.
Yeah.
So, there's kind of like pros and cons of doing some of that stuff, and also it just makes me feel guilty a lot of the time, where it's like I want to spoil this big moment just so I can get some clicks, because clicks are transitory. Yeah, maybe I hit my quota for that month or whatever, but like the clicks aren't going to help me the next month. But then I've ruined that surprise forever, right? So as I get older, I really pick and choose my battles there. But I do think that sometimes I do have overlapping sources, which is why now I check more than ever before I'm going to share something, and make sure that I've got like sources out of left field. I try to have physical evidence where possible. whether it's a document, a photograph, or some video. But yeah, it's not an exact science, reporting, journalism, and all that kind of shit.
Yeah. And he says, and for Rand, how are you liking our Aussie Josh Giddey for the Bulls? He's doing really good. We'll see if he resigns, because I know they tried to resign him or they didn't come to an agreement earlier this year, but he's definitely doing really good. Rave Damos says, hola, gents. I've heard on the show several times that Xbox wouldn't acquire a studio like Ninja Theory in their given strategy today. However, consider this. Hellblade 2, South of Midnight Avowed, and Psychonauts 2 are all smallish games that receive acclaim. They're also quite unique in what they deliver. Using Netflix as an analog, wouldn't these studios and their games be precisely the kind you'd want to diversify and enrich your content library? As a subscriber to Game Pass, I enjoy 10, 20, 30-hour small scale games more than 150-hour epics because they fit into how I like to play video games today and align with my busy schedule. Happy Friday. No, that's a good question. I guess it also just comes down to cost, really. You know, you look at a studio like Compulsion, and it's like, are they making Xbox money? And if yes, then you continue on, and if no, then maybe you have thoughts about, things you need to do. And I get what you're saying about, hey, these smaller games receive acclaim. But I mean, I would argue Hellblade 2 and South of Midnight surely didn't. And neither did Avowed, really. Psychonauts 2, absolutely. That was nominated for Game of the Year. And, does, like, the library... Like, you have all these games on Game Pass, but, like, what is, like, one small drop in an ocean of games? Does that really matter? Does it really matter that in a year from now, somebody who hops on the thing, are they subscribing? Do they care that Hellblade 2's in the thing from 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Is that something that makes them want to keep on subscribing month after month after month? I don't know. They have all the data. We can only speculate. And I did sort of say that to Jez earlier today when I was talking about this, when we were talking about, like, you could turn these studios into, like, award bait where maybe you don't spend a lot of money, but you make the game like an indie darling, kind of like how Pentiment was, where it really, like, gets all the awards and all that stuff. But I just feel like where Xbox was in 2018, where they clearly had a budget for studios and what their goal was, is a lot different in 2025 when you own Call of Duty and Fallout and the Blizzard IPs and the bigger, and Doom and stuff, where, like, you have all these big properties. Is something in a studio like Compulsion that important anymore? Like, they were, but are they still that important? And I don't know. I would like to think so. I would like to think that those studios are all still super important to Xbox, but knowing how, like, corporations are, I mean, the ones that they care about are the ones that make the most money. So, my hope is that, like, Ninja Theory and Compulsion and Obsidian continue to make, and Double Fine can continue to make great games for forever, right? Wouldn't you say the same thing, Jez? Like, just, hey, yeah, hopefully everybody's happy with the sales of the games and the players of the games, and then they can continue on making really great experiences for people 20, 30, 40 years from now.
I suppose that's the dream for a lot of these studios.
Yep. Maddie Wolf says, hey, Rand and Jez, love the show. Listening to your discussion over the past couple of shows on the topic of when or should Oblivion drop and is April too crowded, I started thinking about streaming services I use. I usually only subscribe to a streaming service if there is something I really want to watch, and then cancel later. Netflix is different, and I don't cancel it because there's always so much content that I know I can always find something to watch. Do you think Microsoft might be going for the same approach with Game Pass? Push a ton of content regardless of what else is releasing, and people will have tons of options even if new releases don't appeal to someone? Certainly possible. You know, if you just release, hey, here's South of Midnight, here's Atomfall, here's Expedition 33. Oh, look, here's Oblivion. And that was the other thing I was sort of thinking, Jez, was, and I know they're different styles of RPGs, but you're going to have Oblivion come from Bethesda, the remake, and then a few days later, potentially, or around the same time, you're going to have Expedition 33, which is a game that you've also kind of have a lot of, not like a lot like
Mm.
riding on, but also you've promoted a lot. Granted, one's kind of a turn-based JRPG, and the other one's more of a Western RPG, and maybe the audiences are a little bit different. But I mean, considering Nate said that Oblivion's coming the second half of the year, half of the month, Expedition 33 is coming the 24th. So like, what if Oblivion's the 21st? Is what Maddie says kind of the thing where it's like, boom, you get this, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this, regardless of even if they might be closely aligned genre wise, that people just be like, well, I got to keep on subscribing. Do you think
Yeah,
that?
I think there's clearly an effort of habit building when it comes to Game Pass, and it's like, yeah, we want people to stay subscribed and just feel like it's something that they subscribe to. Like with Netflix for me, like I can't see me ever unsubscribing to Netflix. I mean, there probably is a point where it's like, hang on, they want me to pay how much a month? But like as for right now, it's basically TV to me. Like it's got so many shows on there. Like if I just want to throw something on to watch while I'm having my dinner or something, and or what? Now it's got WWE. It's like fuck. There's just no chance that I'm ever going to unsubscribe to this shit. Um, I suppose like it's a bit different with Game Pass because there's not really that episodic kind of hook that Game Pass has potentially. I say I subscribe because of my job, but it's hard for me to imagine how I'd feel about it if it wasn't work related. Because obviously I do play a lot of service games, do play a lot of Warcraft, and there's not really any benefits really if you're a service game player on there right now. I mean, there's a little bit of Overwatch in there now, but um, it's not much. It's really sort of like I don't know, very minimal. I would say. I think that could do a lot more there for service game players. Um, but they're probably trying lots of different things and lots of different experiments with regards to Game Pass. Much like they're doing with BattleNet. BattleNet's got the Outer Worlds 2 on there now. It's got Doom the Dark Ages up on there. Like BattleNet used to be back in the day just for Blizzard games, and I think I even said on this podcast that I'd heard they were looking at taking Call of Duty out and leaving BattleNet to be the Blizzard thing. But they've clearly gone in the complete opposite direction now that Johanna Faries is leading the charge, and they're doing a big experiment now to see if BattleNet can actually be a tried and tested alternative destination for PC gamers, or at least PC gamers who are like me, perhaps more inclined to just play one game over and over again. Maybe it's like between seasons, like World of Warcraft War Within Season 2 is winding down right now. Maybe if I'm a Warcraft player, it's like, okay, well, I've done everything I want to do this season. It's going to be like 3 or 4 months to the next season. Maybe I check out this game that came across my screen, Doom the Dark Ages. I know Doom. Maybe I'll buy it on BattleNet, that kind of thing, right? So they're probably still experimenting. There's probably still like ongoing sort of thought processes about when to put games in there, whether to flood the service with content or not, so on and so forth. I think there's some barriers to that when it comes to that Netflix kind of impulsivity. Like with Game Pass, for most part, you still have to install the game. I know that you can cloud game it as well, but cloud gaming is not viable for everyone. So there's still like an effort involved with gaming compared to Netflix. Like on Netflix, I'll literally just throw on anything if I'm bored. Whereas like with the game, it's like it's going to be like a commitment. You got to download the game, all that kind of stuff. So I think there's some technological gaps to solve there to really make it similar to Netflix in terms of user behavior. But I don't know. Maybe this is research ongoing. Maybe this is like what they're working towards. Hey, maybe they can do this with the neural network, Rand. Maybe when you click on play, you get a simulated version of the game in the neural network while the game downloads in the background.
Hmm.
and then you seamlessly transition to the local game. Maybe that's the future, Rand. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm just imagining shit. Rawr, rawr.
We got Sierra11 Kevin that says, "Hi, Rand and Jez. As always, appreciate you both. Are there any gameplay elements you don't like doing in games or really make you cringe to do? Examples like jump scare games or making mean choices in RPGs. For me, I despise jumping or falling from tall heights in games. Do so recently from a high cliff in a pond in Avowed. As soon as I make those jumps, I usually must look away, and it feels like my giggleberries ascend into my stomach knowing my character is falling. What gameplay elements give you the heebie-jeebies?"
Giggleberries?
Yeah.
I've never heard them called that.
I mean, I don't think any gameplay element gives me the heebie-jeebies, but there are gameplay stuff that I do not like.
Crafting.
Survival elements, like, let me drink some water. Oh, I need some food. I hate survival elements in games. Crafting, I'm also not really a big fan of either. Because those games usually seem like they pad out the length of a game because they want you to go collect a bunch of different things to combine them for stuff you do need. It just really kind of just seems a way to extend the gameplay time and extend the life of a game. But no, I don't.
Walking simulators give me the heebie-jeebies. Walking simulators.
It's because you don't have because you have the attention span of a gnat.
That's true.
You know.
I admit.
I'm surprised we can even do this podcast for the length we do it, considering how short your attention span is.
I'm browsing, like, as we do the podcast. I've got like 4 tabs open. I've got a game. I've got a game running.
Got a game running. You're doing all this other stuff. I'm just focused.
I'm talking
on the
to someone on Discord as well, and also reading chat at the same time. Hi, chat. So like, I'm like, yeah, I'm cooked. I might as well be Gen Z.
You might as well be.
I'm Gen Z.
Any gameplay elements that you that make your giggleberries ascend into your tummy?
I don't like walking simulation, for one thing. I don't like arbitrary collectathons. I usually just, like, if a game has like collect the 20 flags, you know, for an achievement, I never do those. I hate that shit. I think it's lame. The full-blown heebie-jeebies. I do hate it in horror games when they won't let you fight back, like walking simulator horror games. I think are just so boring to me. Like even if it's like a really well-made game, like the first Outlast, for example. I was like, damn, this is like a really great game. I just wish I had a shotgun, you know, or anything. You know, give me a baseball bat. Oh God, just something that I can fight back with, you know. I play games to interact with them, not just watch them. So that kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies. The only walking simulator that I really enjoyed was Metal Gear Solid 4.
Lee Sanders says, "Can you believe that Chad Gable isn't going to wrestle at WrestleMania? Absolute cock-up of the highest degree."
Dude, I'm telling you, man. Chad Gable's storyline of Mania, in WWE with the what is it? Grand Americano? I can't remember the name.
That's not him, bro. Come on.
I just love it. It's so funny. Chad Gable is so underrated, I think. I mean, by the WWE. I think he should be like upper card, I think. It'll get there as wrestlers retire and shit, probably.
We got good old Conwoods and happy weekend, Rand and Jez. Jez, what is happening with Infinite Nikki? This dress-up game is pretty popular among my friends and would appeal to the people who play Disney Dreamlight Valley, but it's not on Xbox. What's going on here?
I have actually relayed the Infinity Nikki issue up the chain, so to speak. And I heard there was some movement on getting that onto Xbox, so I would say watch this space. There are a lot of games that are coming out that are increasingly made for women. Oh man, what's it called now? Have you heard of Love and Deep Space?
Nope.
Is it Love in? It's either Love in Deep Space or Love and Deep Space. It's either Love in Deep Space or Love and Deep Space. It's either Love in Deep Space or Love and Deep Space. It's either Love in Deep Space or Love and Deep Space. It's either Love in Deep Space or Love and Deep Space. So like that's a game for women where you basically hang out with hot anime boys in Unreal Engine and tap the screen to make them moan and stuff like that. It's basically like a Guna game for women, and it's mega popular, believe it or not. So there is like an uptick of these kind of games, and I suppose Xbox is sort of like, do we want to pursue games like Love and Deep Space? There's demand for it. I know Infinity Nikki's not like that, of course, but um um Astral Frost in chat says it ain't just women playing it. Yeah, I know. Um, I'm playing it, but no, but nah, it's I do think Microsoft needs to be quicker on some of this stuff. It's like I don't think in 2025 we shouldn't be in a situation where like we got to wait a year for any game that has kind of any sort of hype behind it. You know, why does Microsoft keep missing out on some of these games? Obviously, I don't miss out on everything. Like Power World, for example. That was like Power World was so big for Windows Central. We did so many guides on that game, got so many hits. Like that was like a true like Elden Ring, Harry Potter moment for us. Um, so Xbox, fair play to Xbox, they nailed that one. But I suppose it's a lot of these more sort of Asian kind of games that are missing the mark. But Microsoft's done a lot of work there, I suppose. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. We got Waka Vaka, who says, "Gents, do you guys use washcloths when you shower, or do you stick a raw bar of soap up your ass?" Jez, is it true you wear a shower cap and shower slippers?
That's Joaquin, I think.
I know it is.
Oh, okay.
Asking lame questions as usual, because he doesn't got anything like cool to think of, you know.
Who uses a bar of soap in the shower? Don't you have shower gel there?
Yeah. Don't. Do you got shower caps and shower slippers? You
I
go
do.
in
I
there?
do not have a shower cap or shower slippers. I didn't even know shower slippers were a thing, honestly. Um, do you? Do you, Rant?
I mean, I remember I had them when I went away to college. You know, because you take showers
Shower
with the.
caps?
Well, no, not shower caps. Like flip flop shower slippers, right? Because you
I
didn't want to.
didn't even know they were a thing.
You didn't really want. You don't want to step on the floor as everybody else when they shower. So like you use that, you know. But yeah, Joaquin, we all just use raw bars of soap to just stick it up our asses, you know?
And when I do, I go, rawr.
What kind of question is that?
That's a terrible question,
I know.
Joaquin. You should feel ashamed of yourself.
Yeah. We got Infinite Number with Super Chat. Says, show ends with all games coming to PS5. Wouldn't that be funny? And Parafi says, there should be a new Halo game every year. Just like Nintendo has a new Mario and a new Zelda every year, Microsoft has mistreated the Halo IP. Yeah, you could argue that there should be more, or at least there should be more Halo-related games out there. Like, why isn't, you know, when Helldivers 2 became a big success, it was like, that's basically ODST. Why wasn't there like a game like this? They're sitting on all this stuff and they don't produce any sort of Halo-related content that, you know, you could do. It's just that. And then there's the show and how that sort of failed and stuff. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, you know, Bonnie Ross did leave. And, you know, they did restructure it and move a lot of people in and out. A lot of people that were heads of departments and, you know, were senior staff at 343 are gone. So we'll see how that affects the development of and their plans of the next stuff. But yeah, I mean, clearly there was a lot more they could have done in the Halo universe that they just never did. And it just makes you sort of question why, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I think that's going to be the end of the show. Let me just refresh this Patreon question and answer thread to see if anybody's posted something recent. Nope. So, yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, guys. Another close to 4-hour show for your listening. For all the truckers out there who go spend 8 hours a day down the roads. Hopefully we help you out there. So you only got half of your shift left to go. But yeah, we appreciate everybody who hangs out in the chat and supports the show through super chats
awesome.
or memberships, or doing us a big favor, signing up for Surfshark, which is a current sponsor of the show. They got a awesome offer for 86% off a 2-year deal. Links pinned in the comment or in the description, so check that out if you are looking for getting a VPN. We should have an Xbox 2+1 with the dev on Thursday, as Jez said, so be on the lookout for that, Patreon members. That'll be exclusive for you guys for a few days before it goes live to everybody else. And yeah, this has been episode 359 on a beautiful Friday, April 11th. And I don't know, Jez, what? We'll see him next week? Hope everybody has a great weekend.
See you next week.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend.
All right, later, guys. Have a good one. Keep it gaming.
Take care, everybody.